Fiso, that during the previous court appearance, Malema was found guilty of violating gun laws. But for the EFF supporters and the party itself, this is nothing but a political ploy. Many gathering here, Fiso. I must mention that they were camping at the Young Smart Stadium last night. Meanwhile, members of the Malema family, including his wife Mandwa, have also arrived to join him as he will take to the dock any moment from now. So Eyewitness News, I'm reporting live from Ugompo City in the Eastern Cape.
You can follow our reporters on X, on EWN Reporter, and all our other digital platforms, as well as on YouTube for more proceedings. A report recommending the suspension of embattled Tshwane Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi will be tabled before Council today. The report, which EWN has seen, recommends for Mnisi to be suspended for 3 months on full pay. Mnisi has been implicated at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and is at the centre of a plot to manipulate the awarding of tenders in the capital's municipality. Tabiso Goba reports.
Disciplinary regulations for senior managers in local government states that before a senior manager is placed on precautionary suspension, they must be afforded 7 days to make written submissions on why they should not. On the 28th of March, Tshwane's Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi was served with a notice of Council's intention to suspend him. This was subject to affording him an opportunity to make written submissions. Through his lawyers, Mnisi made written submissions, arguing the notice was unlawful and should be withdrawn. However, the city declined his request and gave him another 7 days to make a case on why he should not be suspended. On the 11th of April, Mnisi's lawyers wrote back to the city, downplaying the allegations against him raised at the Madlanga Commission, saying they have no factual basis. However, the report, which will be tabled during today's in-committee council meeting, recommends Mnisi to be immediately placed on suspension and for an independent investigator to be hired to probe allegations of his misconduct. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
And the United Nations Secretary General has called for the resumption of serious negotiations to end the war in the Middle East, saying the crisis has no military solution. Antonio Guterres says that international freedom of navigation must be respected by all parties in the Strait of Hormuz, which has been a pressure point during the war. He says the ceasefire between the United States and Iran must be preserved, referring to the 2-week truce agreed last Wednesday after mediation by Pakistan. The two sides held talks in Islamabad at the weekend but failed to reach an agreement. The UN chief was speaking to journalists in New York yesterday.
There is no military solution to this crisis. Peace agreements require persistent engagement and political will. Serious negotiations must resume, and the ceasefire must be preserved and extended as necessary.
Gold is trading at $4,818.40 an ounce. The rand is at 16.36 to the dollar, 22.20 to the pound, 19.29 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $95.63 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the Mike 1 North. This is between the Houghton Drive, Killarney Bends, towards the Grayston Drive off-ramp. Traveling in the Sandton area, we do have more traffic volumes piling up along Catherine Street as well as South Road. This is due to peak time delays as well as an accident. Please be on the lookout there.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected later. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 24 degrees. The developing story in EWN this hour. EFF leader Julius Malema has arrived in the East London Magistrates Court in Ugompo for the start of sentencing proceedings in his gun violation case.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 9 o'clock, Dumelang. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show on this 15th day of April. It's great to be in your company this morning. Thank you for joining us here on 702. The 702 open line starts now on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Julius Malema, I see in studio on my screens. He is already in court. He's going to learn his fate today, between today and tomorrow, actually, because the sentencing proceedings have been set down for the 2 days. He's in East London as we speak, attending those sentencing proceedings. Remember, he was convicted last year on 5 firearm-related charges, including unlawful possession of a firearm, ammunition, and firing a weapon in a public area back in 2018 during an EFF event in Kukombo. So the question now is, what will be his sentence? And I think whatever sentence it will be, it's likely to be wholly or partially suspended, coupled maybe with a fine. And of course, everyone is talking about Section 47 of the Constitution, which stipulates that anyone convicted of an offense and sentenced to more than 12 months imprisonment without the option of a fine is disqualified from being a member of the National Assembly. And this disqualification remains in effect for 5 years after the sentence is completed. So you can be rest assured that Julius Malema will appeal this conviction and sentence. Until that's done, Section 47 then is sort of suspended. Do you think it's a big political challenge for him? I mean, I don't see it as such. Yes, maybe an irritation, as one analyst said this morning, or maybe an inconvenience, but it's definitely not the end of the road for him. In fact, he may get more momentum out of a conviction like a harsh sentence. You know how precious martyrs are in our politics. What are your thoughts though? 011-883-0702. Your WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. What do you think of the appointment of Rolf Meyer as our new ambassador to the United States? Do you think this appointment will stabilize our relations with Washington, D.C., following quite a turbulent period? I mean, this is a former National Party minister. His backroom diplomacy is actually what assisted dismantle apartheid. He's a veteran negotiator. He was the chief representative of the former apartheid government in negotiations to end apartheid in the 90s. And then, of course, our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, was the chief negotiator for the African National Congress. In fact, I saw on the Business Day this morning that he was actually named one of the 31 eminent people to guide. In fact, this was announced last year by the president, naming him as one of the 31 eminent people to guide the national dialogue, which is like a CODESA-style process that the president lodged and formed to sort of push for this new social compact for our country. So let me know what you think of him. Give me a call or send me a WhatsApp voice note. In fact, I had a conversation with him. When was it? I think late last year. It must have been in July, thereabout. And I had him on the SABC, and I remember asking him, your name is being bandied about. Huh? Are you the next ambassador to the U.S.? But here's a reminder of how that conversation went. What do you think is the best way to react to things like this? Is there a balance that can be struck here between, one, standing your ground so that you are not subjecting yourself to bullying, and, of course, allowing for diplomacy to resolve this?
I think it's on the one side to ensuring that you keep the dialogue, also at interstate level going. In other words, keeping the relationship open, but at the same time, standing your ground in terms of what we have to be firm about. I mean, South African government in general about our foreign policy have been very clear in terms of our constitutional basis from where we're coming. A rights-based approach. And we have to stand our ground in that regard. And that argument must go out to the world wherever it is under confrontation.
Yeah, speaking of D.C. and America, I think your name was mentioned as a possible candidate for ambassador at some point to the U.S. Have you ever given it thought? Did the president approach you?
Fortunately not. But the question, of course, didn't come up, and therefore I didn't have to respond. What I would have reacted is a different case. I don't think somebody of my age should take on that responsibility at this stage, quite frankly. Like Abraham Rousseau was just saying, it's something that demands everyday, very hard work in DC to get to the different think tanks, to get to the lobby groups, to work the corridors of power. Capitol Hill, State Department, etc., etc. And that demands, I think, youthful energy.
So, and I suppose that's where the challenge is, because one of the things you realize about Washington, D.C. is that you have to work the think tanks.
Absolutely.
You have to be on the ground. You have to work the State Department. There's a lot of lobbying that happens there, and that's why it's sometimes concerning when we don't see a lot of action. It's almost like our voice doesn't exist there. And it's the prevailing voice is that of people who just want and have an agenda against this country. What do you make, though, of some of the groups that have gone to the U.S. to have conversations, even with some officials there, about South Africa, because they've seemingly worked against the national interests of this country? And that links me to the national dialogue as well, about how do we then become united as a nation so that we're not fragmented. We can disagree on things, but there can be a time where when our country is facing attacks, we are united.
I think a number of things come to mind immediately in terms of what you just said. We neglected our relationship with the U.S. over a period of time. When Abraham Rousseau was there the previous time as ambassador during Obama's presidency, he was very active, very successful. I can say because I worked frequently with him, actually, in D.C. at that stage. And then followed a period of almost 10 years or more, where we didn't do much in keeping up that relationship and doing that lobby work.
Well, he's going to be doing that lobby work and keeping up that relationship alive between South Africa and the Trump administration, or let's say Washington, D.C., because even beyond Trump, this is the man who may remain in office. Isn't that interesting that he said to me in that interview, I had actually forgotten about that part where he says, I don't think someone of my age should be burdened, for lack of a better word, because I don't remember what specific word he used, with this responsibility. So he doesn't think that someone of his age should take up a responsibility like that. He's 77 years old. 77. But he's still sharp. He's quite rational. I've engaged with him so many times, on air and off air. What do you think of his appointment as ambassador? You can tell that our president here was trying to bring about a candidate that would be acceptable in the eyes of Donald Trump. Clearly, this is a name they started discussing, right, informally, just to get a sense of what's the temperature in the U.S. When Rolf Mayer's name is being mentioned. So, yeah, that's the man who's going to be representing us in the U.S. What do you think of this appointment? Then, what are your thoughts of what happened at the Madlanga Commission yesterday? The suspended EMPD Deputy Chief, Julius Malema, spent the first hour of his appearance at the Madlanga Commission yesterday explaining his family structure. He asked the commission for a postponement of his appearance last month, saying that his mother had died. But after receiving the death certificate and assessing Home Affairs records, the commission found that the woman Mkhwanazi referred to as his mother was only 10 years older than him. So the commission also found out that the woman did not appear on his birth certificate as his mother. So Mkhwanazi had a lot of explaining to do yesterday. He told the commission that the woman is actually his stepmother and not his mother. That's the woman who raised him from a young age. And the evidence leader suggested that Mkhwanazi had committed perjury to avoid appearing before the commission. But he insists that the woman who passed away is indeed his mom. Do you believe that Mkhwanazi misled the commission to buy time? Or do you actually believe what he says, that actually this is how we speak? Even when someone is your stepmother but they've raised you from when you were young, you actually end up just always broadly referring to them as my mother. And as much as I would like to understand that and I appreciate that, I also know what I'm dealing with here. I'm dealing with a man who has told lies before at this commission, who has not been honest, really. And I wonder if he is being honest this time around. What do you think? Do you think he's being honest? Do you believe him? Or do you think the evidence leader is up to something here? Oh, is the commission overlooking the complexities of black families and how they are structured? What are your thoughts? 011-883-0702. We'll take your WhatsApps as well. At 10 o'clock, I'm going to be in conversation with the GEMS principal officer, Dr. Sten Moluabi. There's a high volume of claims that have forced GEMS members to pay more for their plans from the 1st of April following protracted negotiations with unions that settled on an increase. So the scheme has said it's experienced unexpectedly high claims last year and has been compelled to hike premiums to ensure its solvency ratio does not fall below the statutory requirement of 25%. So we'll be talking to the GEMS CEO about this. I mean, GEMS is South Africa's biggest restricted medical scheme. We're talking 2.5 or so million beneficiaries exclusively serving civil servants and their dependent. So it's quite an important medical aid scheme. And if you've got any concerns you've had, any questions you probably want to raise to the CEO of GEMS, get them ready for our conversation at 10 o'clock. There's a lot to talk about. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Listener's Choice feature. Today, we're discussing South Africa's draft AI policy. One of our listeners has asked that we discuss this policy that's really taking us into a critical moment in our digital future with the development of a national artificial intelligence policy. So what does it say? How far does it go? That's a conversation on our Listener's Choice at 11 o'clock. And then we wrap up the show at 11:30 with the sharing space. And it's an interesting story today that's being shared. I'll say to you in a question, and then you'll hear the story at 11:30. Are you allowed to poach a helper or a nanny from a family member? And they start doing work for you, but you have not told that family member. Should that be allowed? Or is that like the bro code of in that sector? Like, you cannot do that. In fact, if you want my nanny to come and help out at your house, at least have a conversation with me. But to poach them and offer them more money? Quite questionable. Is it? Well, you'll hear what one of our listeners is sharing with us at 11:30, and I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on that. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Hi, morning, Clement and team. Apare from our report. Regarding the Malema issue, I believe this is where justice needs to be firm, guys. Because you can't say because it's Julius, he needs to get something based on his profile or something. No. A politician, a public figure, a celebrity, and a normal person must all be judged the same way when it comes to the justice system. It's just simple as that. It needs to be punished like a normal Joe in the street. It's simple as that. If we start then to say, no, because of his profile, he needs to get a different sentence, then that nullify the whole point of being a justice, Mos. Is it not?
Hi, Clement. On the Mkwanazi issue, really, I think if someone is explaining a family relationship or referring to a family member, it's best to do the affidavit in one's own language, because a lot of relationships don't translate well into other languages. It's just the way it is. That's why we end up with weird expressions like cousin, brother, and so on. Just use your own language. David. So.
Good morning, Clement. This is Jermaine from Eldorado Park. I think the commission is being a bit too harsh. We all do that. Many a times you might have a biological father, but if that person hasn't played an integral part in your life, I call my friend's father my father. So if my friend's father is passed on, he's my father because he was there for me and he provided for me support or not even monetary, but sometimes just emotional support. That person is my father. We see him as a parent. So I think the commission is just a bit but unfair. Yeah. Thank you for a great show. Bye.
And that's the complexity that I'm talking about. That maybe then, one, the commission needs to be gracious enough to realize the complexities, especially of black families and how they are structured. But at the same time, I'm saying I hear that. But for some reason, I can't move away from the context of the person we're dealing with here. I'm sorry, I don't trust Julius Mkonazi. I simply don't. I don't think he has been honest. I don't think he has conducted himself in the way someone in his profession should. I don't think he's been ethical. In fact, I think he's so nonchalant to a point of irritation, quite frankly, about what he has been involved in. So nonchalant about it. So that for me becomes then important. Like, for instance, when you want to take an off from work because you want to go to a funeral, what do you say? Because I've got my aunts that are very close to us at home, that an aunt that I would consider as a mother. What do I say at work if that aunt, God forbid, passes away? Do I say my mother has passed away? Or let's say you were raised by your grandmother and your grandmother passes away. Do you say, okay, my mother has passed away? And I'm asking that because sometimes at work, there are policies that dictate that it has to be your biological mother so that you get, let's say, 2 weeks of family responsibility because of a death of an immediate family member. Yeah. So do you then not become more transparent about it and say, my mother has passed away, but just so you know, this is actually my stepmother. Just in the context of, so that doesn't get to a point where when you come back from your 2 weeks leave, the office says, give us the death. I don't know if they ask for a death certificate. I've not been in that situation yet. But do they ask for a death certificate? And then when they look at that, the name is different to who your real biological mother is, then it complicates things. So maybe then in that case, especially for purposes of avoiding a scenario where you are told, oh, you just wanted to buy yourself time, then you become more transparent about it. Or do you think, well, that's just how we speak, and when someone has passed away, you're also not thinking about, what's politically correct and what's the right statement to make. You are distraught, especially if it's the mother. It's someone that has raised you, that you've considered a mother. So do you believe in Mkonazi? Do you think the commission must just let this go and just understand that they must have grace, even on this man that has proven countless times, even at the commission, sometimes not to be honest? What do you think? Stephen, you are in Centurion. Good morning.
Mr. Manyathela, how are you, sir?
I'm all right, man. What do you want to say about Julius Malema?
Good, man. Look, I think it will be devastating to the party should he be sentenced, be ineligible to go to the parliament. All what he needs to do if he can find himself in that situation is to come back, consolidate his followers, and then identify another party that he can go in collaboration with. That is the only way that EFF will survive. But for him not to be in parliament, I don't think some of us will miss him, because for me, he doesn't make any difference in the parliament except making noise. While the likes of AfriForum are building universities, coming together, the white people are coming together, building universities, and they are just fighting.
But they're not making noise anymore, Stephen. The EFF, remember they changed their approach.
No, remember, there's something that people don't understand about Malema when he's in the parliament. His assignment there is Ramaphosa, nothing else. There's nothing that that is bringing there, nothing good is bringing for the black people. His assignment is Ramaphosa. He's so obsessed with Ramaphosa there. That's his assignment. So he'll never be missed.
Yeah,
but for Mkonazi, let me just put this. For Mkonazi, I think really we need to understand the gentleman, really. Where I'm coming from, I don't call a child of my aunt a cousin. Don't do those things. He's my brother. He's my brother. But where these two other people come from, they say, no, it's a cousin. For me, cousin is a distance relationship. But if you can come and tell somebody that my brother is passed on, when you come and tell, you find that is my aunt's son or daughter, they will say, no, you are not more related. But for us, where I'm coming from, because we happen to grow up in the same family, Yes,
But
my
at
brother.
work, Stephen, if the policy says your immediate family member is your mom, dad, brother, sister, whatever your siblings, if your cousin dies, whether you grew up together at your grandmother's house or not, if the company finds out that it's actually not your biological brother in that sense of an immediate family member, that can get you in trouble. I'm just
Yes,
saying,
Mr.
rather be
Magwenya, I
more,
understand you.
rather be more transparent. Because I've been raised in situations like that too. There are cousins of mine that when we were young, we grew up together, right? That I've seen as sisters and brothers. But if one of them, God forbid, passes away, do I go to my boss and say, hey, my brother has passed away, and therefore I deserve a week or two of leave as per the policies of the company? Or do I deserve then 3 days of leave because it's a family member but not an immediate family member? I'm just saying that level of transparency becomes important when policies are going to be applied. Someone on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, it's not even 2 weeks of leave, it's 3 days. No way. So when you've lost a family member, like an immediate family member, there's no way you get 3 days leave. Like a mom or a dad or a sibling? Yeah, we'll check that out, but no ways. Are you kidding me? I'm sure maybe you get it at the very least. It must at least be 5 days. Isn't that the standard practice? I don't know. Like some of you that have been in that situation, that unfortunate situation, please let me know how the leave was structured. 3 days? Oh my goodness. So this is crazy. I mean, I need to go check my contract now. 3 days. And I've lost my mother? How am I supposed to even concentrate at work? Because those 3 days are not even enough for me to plan a funeral. Yo, okay. Sebenzela abantu. We don't work for ourselves, eh? Let me know what your company policy is. I want to see the temperature here. Is 3 days the standard practice, or is it a couple of more days? Because I think 3 days is unfair. Nati, what do you want to say about Julius Mkhonazi? Good morning.
Morning, Clement. Clement, maybe just touching on what you've just mentioned now.
Yeah.
Previous companies I've worked for, it's always been 3 days.
What?
To an extent that even if it's your grandmother who has raised you, who might potentially be taken as an extended family member, which means, to your point, you are therefore not entitled to even that 3 days. But anyway, you needed to supplement your 3 days with your annual leave.
Okay.
But just going back to Mkhonazi, I think to answer you, I think there's some overreach from the Commission point of view. I think the fact that they've taken the time to go to Home Affairs and investigate, they should have also taken or gave him courtesy to also follow up. I understand that he might have not been transparent, but they should have taken the responsibility to also follow up with him to say, is this your biological mother? And if this is now found where he was then, when he said mother, to him it's a mother. Like, for instance, Clement, I have an aunt that is 10 years younger than me. This is the unfortunate situation we find ourselves in. In fact, not unfortunate, but this is the reality. I have an aunt that is 10 years younger than me. So now the question is, if she passes on and I'm close with her, and then I say my aunt, so am I not entitled for that grace period? And I think there's nothing that the Commission is losing here. And you are absolutely correct that probably they are looking at it from an investigative point of view, taking into context that this guy has lied repeatedly. But generally, yes. Yeah. But generally, for me, I think it's some sort of an overreach. They should have then just engaged him further. They've done the Home Affairs thing, but it does happen in our family. Like for you, Clement, let me put it out there, and it might sound like a joke. If I were to refer to somebody and I was saying I was talking to Clement, somebody will then say Clement is my cousin, because this is how reality or how we live. Yeah.
I think that the evidence leader, thanks Nati and Albertine, thanks for a call. The evidence leader said Julius Mkhonazi was at pains to say, this is my mother. So, in fact, I'll play you that clip after the latest in Eyewitness News headline so you can hear what Advocate Silo was saying. Because at least from what I got, it appears like he tried to create an impression that this is my biological mother, even when he had multiple opportunities to clarify it. But I get your point, all of you who talk about the complexities of black families, which is why I raised it in the beginning. Should the commission be more gracious and understand that this is just what happens, especially in black families? More of your calls and WhatsApps on that after the latest headlines. Fiso, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Pre-sentencing proceedings in EFF leader Julius Malema's gun violence case have started in the East London Magistrates Court. Malema was found guilty of opening fire into the air during the party's 2018 rally in Danzane. And Malema's political future could take a significant turn if he's handed a custodial sentence of more than 12 months without the option of a fine, as legislation states that anyone who receives such a sentence is disqualified from serving as a member of parliament for 5 years. A report recommending the suspension of embattled Tshwane Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi will be tabled before Council today. The report, which EWN has seen, recommends for Mnisi to be suspended for 3 months on full pay. Mnisi has been implicated in the Madlanga Commission or at the Madlanga Commission for being at the center of a plot to manipulate the awarding of tenders in the capital's municipality. And Build One South Africa leader Mmusi Maimane says a planned merger with the Good Party and Rise Mzansi failed because of legal technicalities. He says a merger of 3 parties, which are all represented in the National Assembly, would have been illegal. The 3 parties had earlier announced their intention to contest this year's local government elections under the Unite for Change banner, but they've decided against the move until after the polls. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling in Paulsov, we've got an accident on the N1 North that happened near Rivonia Road. Delays coming out of Winnie Mandela Drive, and there's also roadworks taking place along this route. So do expect about a 20-minute hold up there while traveling in Sharon Lee. Delays on Malibongo Drive. This is between Oliver Nord Avenue and the N1. There's also queuing traffic reported on the M1 North between Kohler Drive and Grayston Drive. An accident between these 2 points while traveling on the N12 West in the Edenville Bedfordview area. Do expect delays approaching the Glulis interchange. That's due to roadworks taking place along that route. I'll have more updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
But then after 5 years of being permanent residents, do they automatically become naturalized, or is there another application process to follow?
There will be an application for naturalization if they would wish to, and that again is a case-by-case basis. Immigration system is under review by government, but in the existing legislation, there would be an application for naturalization after 5 years, should they wish to become citizens in the country.
Advocate Simba Chitando is the legal counsel for the Zimbabwe Exemption Permit Association.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702. When was the last time you felt something? Something that ignites your passion, gets your adrenaline pumping, and makes your heartbeat skip? When was the last time you fell in love? Introducing the new Alfa Romeo Junior with 280 horsepower and standard park assist. Learn to love again. Visit alfaromeo.co.za to book a test drive.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 Rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
When it comes to protecting your workforce, trust the workwear brand that has been protecting workers for over 150 years, Sweetall. Sweetall has overalls and uniform solutions for every industry, so your team is safe, comfortable, and ready to tackle any challenge. Visit our Boksburg showroom, shop A1 Atlas Road, Westwood, Boksburg, or go to sweetall.com today. Sweetall, we never let you down. Superior protective workwear since 1871.
Running a small business is not just about having a great idea. It's about having the right tools to grow it. That's exactly where MTN Business comes in. Beyond the 702 MTN Small Business Awards, they're doing a lot more to support SMEs. Today on the Afternoon Drive with John Perlman, we'll be in conversation with MTN Business, discussing how they're helping SMEs unlock real growth through AI and productivity solutions designed to drive efficiency, automation, and measurable performance. Tune in and find out how they can help take your business further too. MTN Business, let's talk shop on 702.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
23 minutes before 10 o'clock. So much to talk about this morning on the 702 open line. I've been asking you about Julius Malema, who is still in court as we speak. In fact, Abel, let's take our listeners there for just a minute to hear what's currently taking place. It's the sentencing proceedings that are scheduled for today and tomorrow. This is not the judge now speaking. Seems to be probably one of the legal counsels. Let's take a listen.
Quoted, the grading of the offence will typically be informed by the risk of harmfulness and the culpability of the offender. We then make the bold submission that I've already made to your worship, that the minimum sentence regime does not apply in this instance, so that's at paragraph 29. We also refer to State versus Madikani, which the State has referenced, and we quote from that decision that we say what is notable from these cases is that imprisonment is not always the norm. And then we say as follows, that, and turning to paragraph 33 now, Your Worship, that the case law, we said, sub 1, the circumstances of the possession are a central factor. If the context of the possession is part of an overall commission of violent crimes, the court will generally incline towards a harsh sentence in keeping with the objects of the legislation. That's logical, Your Worship, and speaks for itself. If a firearm is used to commit a murder or to commit a robbery, it's far more serious than a firearm that isn't used to commit another serious offence, which is what we submit the case here. Secondly, the purpose behind the possession is also another factor that emerges from some of the cases. We say, while not decisive, it is a factor that a court may legitimately take into account. Indeed, there is a vast difference between an accused who has been asked to temporarily keep a firearm while the owner goes shopping and a person who places a firearm in the boot of his car intending to hide it from the police. Then thirdly, the duration of the possession is a relevant factor. If an accused has been in possession of a firearm for a lengthy period, they cannot be treated the same for sentencing purposes as someone with fleeting possession of a couple of seconds. Fourthly, harm is a critical consideration. A court should consider what the harm is. We accept that possession is in itself a harmful thing, but there are degrees of harm caused by possession, so the court would need to satisfy itself about the harm it seeks to punish. Possession in celebratory context for a few seconds should be considered differently. And that's our submission. And then from the cases, Your Worship will also note from whom and in what circumstances the accused received the firearm also play a part. We then quote the Delport decision about Bin's Ward about predation, which turned on the circumstances and relatively innocuous possession. And we then turn in paragraph 35, Your Worship, to cases on discharge of firearms. And we say that they also do not always attract incarceration, and that regard is had to the circumstances and the context of the discharge. We then referred to the decision of State versus Fulyun, which Your Worship will remember is the case where the person shot at a motor vehicle in a public area because he believed it was his wife's lover's vehicle. He pleaded guilty and he was convicted, given a fine. On appeal, even the monetary fine was reduced. Then the second decision that we quote there, Your Worship, which I've already referred to, is the Pistorius decision, where there was a shooting in a restaurant in Norris by the name of Tasha's. Under the table, there were over 200 people in a very confined room of a restaurant. Fortunately, there were no injuries, but there was damage to the floor. There was a Glock 27 pistol, and we said that's the most comparable to here because we believe the witness was given his firearm back after the incident, and that he was the lawful possessor who had handed it over to the shooter, but they told him not to shoot.
So that's the legal counsel of the EFF leader, Julius Malema. What you've just heard now is him mentioning these two case laws that basically are supposed to indicate that you can't send this man to jail, because other cases before have, the first one he mentions is someone was given a fine and even that fine was reduced. So those cases happen in similar circumstances to this case around Julius Malema. So obviously arguing there in mitigating of sentence. All right, so that's what's taking place in East London. But also, Rolf Meyer, the former minister in the National Party, has been appointed as our new ambassador to the US. And I've been asking if you think this appointment will help stabilize our relations with Washington. On YouTube, Ryan says, appointing a white man as an ambassador at a time when the US is playing the race card against SA is quite interesting, especially after Rasul, who was not white, was declared persona non grata. So that's the message there from Ryan on YouTube. Some of you have had something to say on the WhatsApp line.
And all the listeners, for me, the appointment is very sad. The appointment of Ralph Mayer as an ambassador is sad in this way for me, that to know as a black person that the only person from this country that will be accepted by America had to be white, and we need to call it like it is, and that is so sad for me.
Yeah, well, what else did our government need to do? Because if they had put up, I don't know who, Tokyo Sohwale, or they put up, who? Mondli Gungubele, Naledi Pando, do you think that was going to go down well with Washington, D.C.? In fact, the new ambassador from America to South Africa, Leo Bozel III, actually met with this now new ambassador of South Africa to Washington, D.C. So, yeah, we obviously, as South Africa, had to be quite strategic with who you send there. That's not going to ruffle the feathers, but you want to send someone you also trust, someone you know will be there and will represent truly the interests of this country. More of your WhatsApp voice notes on Julius Malema, not Julius Malema, but Julius Mkhwanazi on 0727021702.
Morning, Clement. Morning, Brabi. Look, I don't believe that guy. He even contradicted himself, Mkhwanazi, when he said the lady, she's 10 years older than him. But then he says by himself, if you could go and look at the script, he says the lady looked after him when he was 7. And therefore, my question comes in, when she was married by his father or whatever at that stage, when the lady herself looked after him when he was 7, and the lady is 10 years. It's almost, there's something is not right. It doesn't make sense. Okay, thanks a lot.
Hi, Clement. They leave, we call that leave the family responsibility leave. You get 5 days in a year. So on those 5 days, remember, if your kid were to get sick, maybe during the year you've already used 4. Should the death come, then it means you are only going to take 1 day. It's 5 maximum. Then the rest you will use your annual leave if you do have. So maybe Luna, go 702 le more than 10 the weeks and all that.
No, we don't. No, we don't. That's why I said I need to go check now our system here at work and how it works, because I've never really looked at that. I'm not the person to take family responsibility leave. Look, there have been cases where I've lost like an uncle, I've lost like family members, but not immediate family members. And the company has always been gracious enough to understand that you have to leave and tomorrow you may not be in. But I've just never had to deal with a death in the immediate family that would require me to be involved in planning funerals to that extent. And honestly, I don't think 3 days is enough. I just don't think it's enough. And I'm seeing a lot of your messages are saying standard process is 3 days. Some of you are saying it's 5 days. I would think, for some reason, I thought at least 2 weeks at the very least. Because that's quite a lot. So what about someone who loses their wife or their husband? Do they also get like 3 days or 5 days? Yo. Hi.
Morning, Clement. We call it family responsibility leave or compassionate leave, whichever word you want to use. By law, you get 5 days. And that 5 days is for your immediate family. Your immediate family would be your biological mother, like you say, your biological father, your grandparents, your mother, father-in-law, your siblings, or your own children. And how you need to specify it, they put in the form that you are doing. They ask the kind of relationship. So in a case of Julius Malema, the relationship would have easily been stepmother. And stepmother would be, in a way, immediate family if that stepmother has adopted you legally. If the stepmother has not adopted you legally, in a way, it might not fall under your immediate family, but other companies might say because they raised you, yes, it is your immediate. I'm not sure about his case.
In 600 meters, turn left.
Good morning, Clement. Hope you're doing well. You're speaking to Tapo in Midrand. Clement, on the Mukwanazi issue, I have no sympathy for Mukwanazi, right? I mean, I just think, like you said, he's been quite dishonest and, disingenuous, throughout the whole process. However, I think there is a greater need to decolonize HR policies and how we define family members or immediate family members in the workplace. South Africa have a very complex family structure, and I think it's high time that we take that into consideration within organizational policies as well. So, in as much as I don't like him, I think, the commission was a bit harsh in terms of questioning, the family dynamics, because, we are Black people. We have a very complex history. Apartheid did a number on the family structure within the Black community. So we need to decolonize that part as well.
702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.
My show is about getting you informed by the time you get to the office, your place of business, or wherever you need to go. Hopefully you have a fairly good idea what's happening in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, and around the world. We want you to be part of those water cooler conversations, and you will be part of those conversations because you'll be a better informed citizen. What I like about the 702 family and 702 land is the ecosystem that we have built, the community. It's all about connection, because we may be different, but ultimately the people you talk to and the people you hear are facing issues just like you.
702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa, weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m.
Celestial Bodies returns to the stage after last year's successful run. It's a collaboration between Universe on Stage and Joburg Ballet. Celestial Bodies is a fusion of narration, music, science, and ballet. It's a unique performance that tells the story of our connection to the stars and to the universe. Universe on Stage is reshaping live entertainment, merging science, music, and storytelling that connects audiences to the wonders of the cosmos. There are 3 performances of Celestial Bodies at the UJ Theatre this weekend, so don't miss them. 2 on Saturday in the afternoon and the evening, and then only 1 on Sunday. So that's 2 on Saturday, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening, and 1 on Sunday. For more details and to book your tickets, go to Quicket and search for Celestial Bodies.
Stand a chance to win a share of a red-hot 3 million rand with the Hollywood Bet Spinner Zonke jackpot race. Enter the chase and enjoy a feast of fun where every spin could unlock riveting rewards. To start your adventure, bet 2 rand or more on selected habanero games every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday between 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. The racing revolution starts now. Dive in and prepare to take top spot.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. It will leave you feeling overwhelmed. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim to make those important calls. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Africa's trade system is at a turning point. Fragmented standards are increasing compliance costs, delaying exports, and enabling the illicit economy to flourish. Today, 15th of April, industry leaders, regulators, and innovators gather at the GS1 South Africa in Durban to explore how globally recognized GS1 standards adopted in 120 countries, supported by trusted product data and traceability systems, can enable safe trade, curb illicit activity, and protect consumers, anchoring in GS1's vision of powering trust in data for everyone, everywhere. 702 is on the ground, bringing you all the action, updates, and conversations. Don't miss it on 702.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
7 minutes before 10 o'clock. Let's go to more of your WhatsApp voice notes.
Clement, with regards to Rolf Meyer's appointment, the man is a brilliant negotiator. He's well experienced, way more than many of the guys in the current South African government. However, the fact that we had to accede to America's request, and I'm sure this was possibly alluded to, that the person needed to be white, that for me is the sad part of this. I don't think there's any doubt about Rolf Meyer's ability, but the fact that we've got to still cozy up to the Americans by sending a white representative of an African country. I, on the other hand, think that the way we handled the American ambassador to South Africa was way too easy. He was handled with kid gloves throughout the process, and we should have sent him packing as soon as he made those statements. Ashwin and Velter-Vredenpark.
Yeah, but what are you dealing with here? What kind of leader are you dealing with? I mean, can you imagine what would have happened if Ambassador Leo Bozel was declared persona non grata after he went out publicly to say, I don't care what your courts say? Can you imagine saying that to a country that's hosting you, that you don't care what their independent institutions say? It's wild. But can you imagine what would have happened had our government declared him persona non grata? Because we must always remember, we're not dealing here with an administration that is going to be able to sit down with us and we're going to have a rational conversation. We're not. We're dealing with an administration whose president can just wake up and tweet and say, I want nothing to do with South Africa, or cut all trade with South Africa. It could be anything. You don't know what to expect. So you must also manage yourself. How do you deal with someone like that? And in this way, unfortunately, it's dictated to us. You have to think of someone who's not going to ruffle feathers. You have to think of someone that even the Americans are not going to go dig up and find what they said 20 years ago about America, right? You don't want to go, you don't want someone that can easily be discredited. So it's sad, but that's the reality of, as they call it, Animal Farm.
Hi, Clement and the team. I think the commissioners are being petty on Mokhonazi this time. Very petty. There's been death in the family. In terms of how you relate to that person or how you put them in your hierarchy, it's up to you. We don't use step mang in our families. The word step doesn't even exist in our African vocabulary. So I think they've been petty, really petty. I mean, like, for instance, Rakadi. In English, we don't have it. But in vernacular, Rakadi it's a sister to your father. When your father passed on, she takes over. You know, your mangwane, we don't have those in English. So I think they've been petty, very petty. Even if it was his aunt who passed away, he deserved to take off. So how do I regard my mother as my aunt as my mother? It's got nothing to do with the commission. Very petty. Lebo from Rodipot.
Thank you, Lebo. Maropene, you're calling from Johannesburg South. Good morning. What are your thoughts?
Hi, Clement. Yeah, Clement, I just wanted to comment on Julius Mkonazi. Yeah, I think the commission has been hard on Mkonazi. Yes, Mkonazi is not one of my favorites, but then this time, when he says that the mother passed on, I think the commission should believe him. As Africans, yes, that is his mother, even though that is not the biological mother, but then she raised him and she was also married to his father, which means automatically in African, that is his mother. For an example, Clement, if ever may put it, if ever I do get married and then my wife comes with a son, we are going to say in Pedi we say re khupale namane. So in that sense, obviously I'm going to change the surname of the son and all that. Automatically that son becomes mine, becomes my full responsibility.
Yeah, and obviously, and of course, Marobin, I hear that, and there are different circumstances. And I think we all agree that, especially in black families, it's more complex than that. So even people that have raised you sometimes are considered mothers. I'm just saying, guys, that it matters to me the context of who we're dealing with here. This man has lied before to the commission. He's even lied about how much money Kat Madlanga gave him until the evidence leaders had to take out proof of his bank statements and say, but you said 3,000, 2,000, but here's 40,000. Here's other monies that have come into your account. I don't trust him. And I think the commission had a responsibility to also question him when they started seeing that there's a bit of a discrepancy with the documents they received from Home Affairs and what he has told the commission. I say always be extra cautious with people like Julius Mkonazi. It's a minute before 10.
Part of the 702 family.
Hi, I'm Katlego Mosue. I'm a 23-year-old boy from Johannesburg, South Bosonia. And I love listening to 702 because it is informative and it keeps us up to date with current affairs.
Welcome to our 702 family. Let's walk the talk.
In life's most challenging moments of loss, compassion can be your greatest comfort. You shouldn't have to face the financial burden of losing a loved one by yourself. Rest assured, Clientele's funeral plans pay out cash within 24 hours. You can cover up to 13 family members on one plan, ensuring all your loved ones are taken care of, and 3 children are covered at no additional cost. With Clientele, you're not just buying a plan, you're also buying peace of mind. When the time comes, you will need to make important calls with your 200 Rand airtime you will receive when you claim. Plans offer double accidental death cover, as well as transport, grocery, and unveiling benefits. Apply today. It's easy. There are no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
I'm in. I'm connected. Just like that. All access, high speed, full speed. Everyone's busy. No power cuts, no team drama, and handcrafted pizza. Proper. WeWork.co.za. Made for work, built for business.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. Pre-sentencing proceedings in EFF leader Julius Malema's gun violence case have started in the East London Magistrates Court. Malema was found guilty last year of opening fire into the air during the party's 2018 rally in Danzane. His political future could take a significant turn if he is handed a custodial sentence of more than 12 months without the option of a fine. Legislation states that anyone who receives such a sentence is disqualified from serving as a member of parliament for about 5 years. Legal expert Ulrich Roux explains what the magistrates might consider.
the court needs to consider his personal circumstances, then it needs to consider the severity of the offence, and then it needs to consider the impact that the sentence has on society. So in other words, would it be a deterring sentence? Will it prevent other people from committing the same crime, or will it be seen as too harsh a sentence? So, all things considered, I do think that we are most likely looking at a suspended sentence here, a hefty sentence, coupled with a fine.
Meanwhile, thousands of EFF supporters are following proceedings outside court. That's where we find Nhlanhla Mabaso. Nhlanhla, I imagine it's much calmer outside court than it was about an hour ago?
That's right, Fiso. EFF supporters are sitting on the road here watching proceedings on a big screen set up outside the court building. There was a bit of yelling earlier on from some members who wanted to force their way inside, but police kept the situation, saying only accredited people will be allowed inside court. The chaos was followed by more singing and chanting, Fiso. Well, Fiso, meanwhile, some people are now sitting comfortably here. More supporters are expected to arrive in Kukompo today. In Nhlanhla, Eyewitness News. I'm reporting live from outside the Kukompo Magistrates Court.
You can follow our reporters on X, EWN Reporter, and we're also live streaming their proceedings on our YouTube page, EWN. A report recommending the suspension of embattled Tshwane Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi will be tabled before Council today. The report, which EWN has seen, recommends for Mnisi to be suspended for 3 months on full pay. He's been implicated at the Madlanga Commission, and he was at the center of a plot to manipulate the awarding of tenders at the capital's municipality. Thabiso Goba has the details.
Disciplinary regulations for senior managers in local government states that before a senior manager is placed on precautionary suspension, they must be afforded 7 days to make written submissions on why they should not. On the 28th of March, Tshwane's Chief Financial Officer Gareth Mnisi was served with a notice of Council's intention to suspend him. This was subject to affording him an opportunity to make written submissions. Through his lawyers, Mnisi made written submissions, arguing the notice was unlawful and should be withdrawn. However, the city declined his request and gave him another 7 days to make a case on why he should not be suspended. On the 11th of April, Mnisi's lawyers wrote back to the city, downplaying the allegations against him raised at the Madlanga Commission, saying they have no factual basis. However, the report, which will be tabled during today's in-committee council meeting, recommends Mnisi to be immediately placed on suspension and for an independent investigator to be hired to probe allegations of his misconduct. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
And Build One South Africa leader Mmusi Maimane says a planned merger with the Good Party and Rise Mzansi failed because of legal technicalities. He says a merger of 3 parties, which are all represented in the National Assembly, would have been illegal. 3 parties had earlier announced their intention to contest this year's local government elections under the Unite the Change or Unite for Change banner, but decided against the move until after the polls. Babalo Ndenza reports.
In October last year, BOSA, Rise Mzansi and the Good Party indicated their intention to contest the local government elections under one party banner. But just 5 months later, the parties have reconsidered their decision and will now contest individually. BOSA leader Mmusi Maimane says their planned consolidation couldn't materialize because of the lack of a legal framework. He adds that voters would be more familiar with the existing party brands just 6 months from the polls.
When political parties are elected to go to the National Assembly, as is the case with Rise and Good, there is no legal framework upon which you can merge them into a single structure. There's just absolutely none. It would be, as a start, let alone illegal, it then becomes impractical.
Maimane has since announced another merger with the People's Prosperity Movement, which will be absorbed into BOSA structures and will contest under the party's banner. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Gold is trading at $4,818.40 an ounce. The rand is at 16.36 to the dollar, 22.20 to the pound, 19.29 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $95.63 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the M1 North. This is between Corlett Drive and Greyston Drive. That's due to an earlier accident. Please be on the lookout there and expect about a 10-minute hold-up. While traveling in Sunninghill, we still have got delays on the N1 North. This is between Rivonia Road and the Baku interchange, and that's also due to an accident.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 24 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. EFF leader Julius Malema's lawyer has argued that a custodial sentence would be grossly unfair, pointing out that no one was injured when he fired a rifle at a rally.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Minutes after 10 o'clock, Dumelang. Welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. I trust you're good this morning. Thank you for your contributions on the 702 open line. Remember, at 11 o'clock, we are going to have a discussion about South Africa's draft AI policy. So we're entering quite a critical moment in our digital future with the development of a national artificial intelligence policy. So what does it say? How far does it go? You know, as the country moves forward, there are so many questions about whether as a country we're truly ready for AI in its fullness, you know, and does this policy go far enough to protect citizens? That's a conversation we're going to have on our Listener's Choice feature at 11 o'clock.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
But right now, we start our conversation with the GEMS Principal Officer, Dr. Sten Molwabi. As you know, GEMS is the country's biggest restricted medical scheme with almost 2.4 million beneficiaries, exclusively serving civil servants and their dependents. And as you have seen in the news over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of months, a high volume of claims have forced GEMS members to pay more for their plans from the 1st of April, following protracted negotiations with unions that settled on an increase. The scheme has said that it experienced unexpected high claims last year and has been compelled to hike premiums to ensure its solvency ratio does not fall below the statutory requirement of 25%. But there have been concerns as well raised from Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration about the fraudulent claims and waste in the government employees' medical scheme and the impact of this on the scheme's financial sustainability. So a lot to discuss with Dr. Molwabi in studio with us, and you're welcome to join this conversation. Maybe you're a GEMS member, maybe your parents are, and you have a question, there's clarity that you're seeking. Give us a call on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 0727021702. Dr. Molwabi, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to 702 lenders. It is an absolute pleasure to be here.
No, it's great to have you here with us. Let's just start from just the beginning and the issue that has been top of the agenda over the last couple of weeks. You have recently, as GEMS, had to implement that 9.5% increase. How serious is the financial pressure facing the scheme right now, and what is it attributed to?
So let's first look at the fact that a medical scheme is required to defray healthcare costs for its members. So in return for the monthly contribution that members give GEMS, we are supposed to defray all sorts of clinically appropriate healthcare costs. Now, that basically then is the driver of whatever we spend. And to your question, we plan annually, and there is a process that is undertaken. It involves expertise in accounting, in finance, and actuarial expertise. We determine what the claims are likely to be in the coming year. What has happened is that in 2025, which is our last reporting year, we paid 4% above what we had budgeted for in terms of claims. So 4% in our environment, in the Jameson environment, it's about 2.4 billion rands. So that necessarily then put financial pressure because now we are paying in excess of what we budgeted for.
Okay, so would it be correct then to say that that's when you experienced this funding shortfall of 2 billion rand?
That would be basically correct in terms of what was budgeted for 2025.
Okay, so you've paid out more claims than you collected in contributions. What does this gap mean for the long-term sustainability of the medical scheme?
And I think that is really the main issue. When you budget, we may budget for the coming year, but you also have to have a medium to long-term view. So in essence, we basically project our expenditure for the next 5 years, and whatever we plan for the coming year in terms of budgeting, in terms of actuarial estimates, must also reflect where we will find ourselves. So if you continue to have a shortfall of that nature on an annual basis, you are going to go bankrupt. So what then happened is what would happen is that the scheme would fold. So that is really what everything is all about.
Yeah.
Whatever we collect, we must defray healthcare costs, which is what our members seek healthcare for, and run the scheme. There's administrative costs as well. All of those must be catered for. If you have a shortfall of that nature, you won't be existing within a few years.
Sure. Okay, so have you done any research as GEMS to figure out why GEMS beneficiaries are making significantly more regular use of their plans than some of the country's top medical aids? Because I wonder if that is a sign of better access to healthcare or a warning sign of overuse.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it research because research which are very specific. We do surveys from our members. We interact with our members through various means. We have what we call GEMS days, where we travel all over the country, and then we invite members who are public service employees, where we interact. All GEMS officers are there, available, where we ask questions, where they ask questions for them to understand how we work, and also to find out from members. And then we have monthly surveys. And these monthly surveys are run by an independent entity which has a set methodology, but it qualifies as a survey rather than a research.
Yes.
And we get the type of feedbacks. So yes, we do look at what are the behaviors amongst our members that would drive this. So there are certain things like the burden of disease. We have a defined membership. It is public service employees, right? So their demographics, and by demographics, obviously, is their age, where they live, the level of income. All of this influence their claiming behavior. So I don't have a specific answer to why do we have higher. We are aware of trends, like we look at the burden of chronic illness within the medical scheme. It is quite high at over 25% chronic illnesses. We then look at the issue of the age, the average age of members. Now, if you take into consideration the fact that the Government Employees Medical Scheme has been in existence for 21 years this year, some members have been with us for 21 members, for 21 years.
Yeah.
Right. So over the years, they have aged. And hence, they start claiming more than they used to claim 20 years ago. So that's what we talk about when you talk about the increased burden of disease.
Okay. So again, to go back to that long-term sustainability issue, I'm trying to figure out how then it affects the members directly. So as GEMS, if you continue to dip into your reserves, how sustainable is that approach going forward in as far as the members are concerned? Do you approach a scenario where then they won't be able to claim as much as they have been claiming in the past? What is the direct impact on them if you continue to dip into the reserves and you continue to deal with these shortfalls without accounting for it through, for instance, this 9.5 increase?
Yes. So the first consequence of dipping into the reserves is that your reserves reduce, and then you fall below the statutory requirement of 25%. Right. So that is the first thing you want to always manage. The fact that in the past 3 years, during the COVID years, for 2 consecutive years, we basically, and we just rounded off at the moment, we had dipped into the reserve, paid for healthcare costs about 10 billion rands. The effect of that is that we were at about 40+% in terms of reserves. We ended the year last year, 2025, on 25, in fact, just 0.2% below 25%. So already the impact is there. We have a plan that we have submitted to say we are going to dip below 25%. However, with these increases and managing the issue of utilization by our members, we will then get back to the 25% statutory requirement. And this has to be approved by the regulator, what I've just spoken about. So it is very important. It is not sustainable that a medical scheme can continue to dip into the reserves. That is only allowed when you are above 25%. And the reason why we dipped into the reserves is to manage. We manage the reserve ratio within what an approved strategy within the scheme, where we keep the reserves above 25% at a certain level.
Okay. And where is the process now of the 9.5%? Because unions were unhappy with it. Where are we now?
So the unions have still indicated that they reject the 9.5% increase that was effective from February 2026. You will remember that during February we had mass action in terms of marches by the unions. And even during that period, the stance of GEMS was that let's engage with the union leadership, with organized labor, to find solutions so that they should understand where we come from. And they represent the majority of our members. At the moment, the stance of the unions is that they still reject the 9.5%. We are basically scheduling to meet again with the unions, which is the only way that we need to find a resolution. But there is also other processes. For instance, this coming Friday, we will be at NETLAC to be in response to a Section 77 of the Labor Relations Act requirement, where we are going to explain ourselves, because the unions are of the view that this is putting economic pressure on the employees, their members who are medical GEMS members. So we are engaged in several processes, but the most important one, I think, and I need to really, has been the stance of GEMS, that we need to talk, have meaningful engagements where we demonstrate why certain decisions are taken and how we are going to resolve these things going forward.
Yeah. Parliament has raised some serious concerns about fraud and waste within GEMS. The committee stressed that fraud and waste undermine your ability as GEMS to provide affordable healthcare. Can you explain to our listeners how widespread the issue of fraud and waste is within GEMS?
So when we talk about fraud, and then we usually link it with waste and abuse, FW, within the medical schemes industry, and we're talking about GEMS, we're talking about those members, and fraud can be committed by other members of medical schemes, mostly in cahoots, so in collaboration with certain healthcare professionals. And then also, you can have employees who are within either employed by GEMS or its service providers who can also become part of this. So those are the different types of people who can participate in fraud. So when we talk about fraud, waste, and abuse in relation to our healthcare costs, we are talking about those who deliberately defraud the medical scheme for personal gain. These are people who come up with nefarious ways of gaining, being paid by GEMS when their services were not rendered. Sometimes for them to, as an example, we would have members going to a service provider who also sells non-medical things, and then they buy medical things, but they claim as if they had healthcare services. That is fraud. And we have certain examples of people who have been successfully prosecuted for that. Recently, we had a case in Limpopo where a pharmacist was convicted for having defrauded GEMS of about 1.5 million rands. So that's an example. Now, how big is fraud within the GEMS environment? We have estimates. Because it's only after the fact, after establishing the facts, that you can say, oh, this was fraudulent because you have established the facts. So it's a difficult thing to predict and say, but the average estimate is that fraud in the medical schemes industry is anything between 5 and 15%. So what I usually do, I say, well, let's take the middle, which is about 10%. In a GEMS environment, we paid for 2025 67 billion rands in claims. 10% of that is 6.7 billion. There's a possibility, therefore, that about 6.7 billion could be fraud, waste, and abuse combined. Because remember, it's not only fraud. Waste is those people who overuse, inappropriately have GEMS pay for services, sometimes which they haven't received, and sometimes a person just goes and buys things that they don't necessarily need from a clinical perspective.
Yeah, and if we operate from a 10% of that huge amount of money, that's 6 billion. That already helps you cover that statutory, the shortfall.
Absolutely.
So if you sort this out,
yes,
you actually sort the other thing out. What are the biggest loopholes, though, in the system that are being exploited? What do you think is... I gave an example before, in fact, on the show, that it was so normal back in the day when we were growing up for like someone who's a nurse, a police officer, a teacher, to go get cousins to come and fit gold tooths. And at the time, we didn't really get it. Like, we didn't think of it as for Ruchi. He used to hear about it, or, oh, mama, look, it's a gold. It's like, no, her aunt, or mama. I was like, now when I'm old, I'm like, but that person was not a dependent of that aunt, a direct dependent. So that means the aunt must have gone to the doctor and they had a thing there going on where I'm going to bring my cousin or my niece, my nephew, you do this as if they are my dependent. And that's just the practical way to explain it. Like, that is fraud because you're not a dependent. Therefore, why are you benefiting from this?
Absolutely. And you were saying, what is the biggest loophole? The biggest loophole that leads to this is third-party payment arrangements. So we are a third party. Let me explain this. You go to a doctor for whatever ailment. The doctor examines you, gives you all the medical services. After that, you do not take a card or money out of your pocket and say, I am paying for the doctor having examined me and given me health care. No, somebody else pays, which is us, the medical aid. And we were not there in the consulting rooms. So we don't know the commodity that was rendered, the service that was rendered was to what extent. So I always make an example to say, you go to a supermarket, you want brown bread, you choose brown bread, and you pay for brown bread because you see the brown bread. And you know it's cost me 20 rand, and for me that's acceptable. In our instance, after you have left as a patient, the account gets processed. Some of the healthcare professionals will send it to you, some don't. And that's the third party element. So whatever is claimed, you don't have an idea what is claimed by the healthcare professional. So if you received 3 services and then they claim for 5, you don't know, because we don't scrutinize our accounts that come from the healthcare provider, whether it be a doctor, an allied health, or even the hospitals. That is the biggest loophole in this entire system. Then there are certain requirements, and these requirements exist because of the Medical Schemes Act, and they are meant to protect members, so that to ensure that members, when they contribute to a medical scheme, all their costs are covered. Unfortunately, we have instances where, because of that obligation on us as a medical scheme to pay everything, that we are, if the account has got 1, 2, 3, 4, the minimum requirement, we are obliged by law to pay it within 30 days. It's a legal requirement. So that is one of the things that makes fraud, waste and abuse possible in our environment, because we do not see what has been rendered. We just have to accept the account on the basis of the so-called Section 59 of the Medical Schemes Act, which ultimately resulted in an investigation because of everything that has to do. Section 59 has to do with how we pay medical claims.
Sure. That is so tricky then. What are there ways to work around that? I mean, that 30-day period, I think, is restrictive.
Yes.
I guess. But so what do you do then? Because clearly there are health professionals out there that are not going to be ethical, that are always going to try their luck.
Absolutely. So if you look at our environment, we pay within 30 days about 92% of the claims we receive. At 8%, we do not pay because there are some issues. It could either be information that is not in line with the requirements, or it could be it is a service provider who we have stopped paying directly because we are investigating. Now, immediately you go over the 30 days, and a claim was valid, you would be in contravention of the Medical Schemes Act.
Even though you had reason to believe there's something here I want to investigate?
Well, there's provision. That would be the 8%. So there is provision. Basically, it says you pay for valid claims.
Okay.
So you validate claims, and then you pay. So if a claim doesn't have a practice number, for instance, as an example, we wouldn't pay it. We would return it to the healthcare provider, and then they would then have to resubmit, and then after all of that is okay, then we would pay thereafter. But it is that environment within which there are certain requirements which we are required to meet, because remember, that would also have an impact on the healthcare providers who depend on this.
Yeah. It's 10:30. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. When we come back, we continue this conversation with the GEMS Principal Officer, Dr. Sten Molwabi. I see some of your questions that are coming through on the WhatsApp line, on calls as well. We'll get to those after the headlines. Fiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Julius Malema's lawyer has argued that a custodial sentence would be grossly unfair, pointing out that no one was injured when the EFF leader opened fire at the party's rally in Dantsane. Malema is appearing in the East London Magistrates Court in Gukompo today for sentencing proceedings. He was found guilty of violating gun laws after firing shots into the air in front of thousands of EFF supporters in 2018. Police Captain Alfred Barker is due back in the Western Cape High Court today to be cross-examined by the state about his relationship with alleged underworld gang boss Nafees Modak. Modak, who faces 122 charges related to allegedly operating a criminal enterprise, insists Barker was part of his plan to expose certain top cops and underworld figures who were working against him. But Barker denied this yesterday, saying he was purely investigating Modak's allegations. And 2 Israeli strikes have hit vehicles in south of Beirut, while Hezbollah launched rockets at Israel hours after Lebanon and Israel agreed to hold direct negotiations. Israel is continuing its strikes in southern Lebanon in its war with Iran-backed Hezbollah, but has not targeted the Lebanese capital since a series of attacks across the country earlier this month that killed more than 350 people. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling in Bedfordview, we've got delays on the N3 South. This is between the Glulis interchange and the Geldenes turnoff. That's due to roadworks. The N3 North is also backed up due to these roadworks, so please be on the lookout there. While heading towards Basonia, we've got an accident on the N12 West. It happened right near Komara Street, causing delays. There's also queuing traffic along the N12 West coming out of the N1 exit towards the Golden Highway. While traveling in the city of Tshwane, do expect some issues along the N1 North approaching Lenwood Road due to an accident scene. More updates coming up at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Sentencing proceedings begin at the Kukombo Magistrates Court. It all follows his conviction on multiple counts under the Firearms Control Act. Ulrich Roo, 15 years is what the state is pushing for.
I doubt that they will get that. Julius Malema does not have any previous convictions prior to this conviction. He's also not previously been convicted of any firearm-related cases.
So if it's a suspended sentence, what would that mean?
Period of imprisonment, whether it's suspended or not, falls under Section 47. Only comes into play should all appeal processes be finalised.
To use a tennis analogy, it may be game, it may be set, but it won't quite be match. Appreciate your time.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Some moments are personal. Some spaces are professional. All of them deserve care. At Frond and Filigree, we create handcrafted floral experiences for life's meaningful moments and the places where they happen. From birthdays and anniversaries to hotels, offices and events, our bespoke arrangements are designed with artistry and intention. Because when flowers are done right, they elevate every moment. Visit frondandfiligree.co.za.
We said, let's talk shop. And small business owners answered, from the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between. Now, 702 and MTN Business want to share their stories with you. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Listen to 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa and the Afternoon Drive with John Perlman all week to meet the businesses doing big things. Hear what it really takes to build something from the ground up. And if you you're listening thinking, that sounds like my business. Go to primemediaplus.com now to enter or nominate a small business you know, because the next business we talk about could be yours. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. TCs and more on primemediaplus.com.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
It's 24 minutes before 11 o'clock. We're in conversation with Dr. Sten Mulwabi, who is the GEMS Principal Officer. I want to give you an opportunity, because I know we've got GEMS members who listen to us. You've got relatives, perhaps in your family, who are members of GEMS. So if you've got clarity you need, a question perhaps you have, call us on 011-883-0702. I'll give you an opportunity on the WhatsApp line as well on 072-702-1702 to engage in this conversation. Let's start with Moses, who is calling us from Pretoria. Moses, good morning.
Good morning. Clement, how are you?
I'm all right, man. What's your question?
Good. Dr. Mulwabi, good morning. And thanks for intervening in my cases. I really appreciate it. Clement, I want you to spend the remainder of the show also to look at the benefits that members have lost. Dr. Mulwabi knows what I'm talking about. There are members who, maybe some of them have died, Clement, on a very serious note, due to the fact that they have not been admitted at private hospitals due to the decisions that GEMS has taken to cut on benefits. Look at that as well deeply as you have done for the reserves and so forth and so on. Because I tell you why. For instance, if you are on Tanzanite, the Demolado will know worry. You are no longer just being admitted at the hospital, the severest cause, and some hospitals, what they're doing, they just reject you from onset. They are not admitting due to the changes that GEMS has introduced, and you had to be admitted for something related to your chronic. If it's not chronic related or PMB, they are not admitting you. I want to find out from that, is there any other thing that they can look at? Because, for instance, look at the fact that for somebody who's really needy of medical attention and who's at the stage of either dying or living, and is at either Butilo private hospital or at any medical facility or institution, and he's being returned due to the changes they've introduced or to the measures they've introduced. What must we do? What must happen? Because they are also dependent on the fully. They are fully. It is their right to be taken care of.
Got you. All right, Moses in Pretoria. Thank you so much for your question. Yeah, Dr. Mulwabi, how do you justify then the decreases in some of the benefits?
No, thank you very much, and thanks to Moses. I'm happy that his problems were attended to, as he mentioned that I know this Moses as a member. So the unfortunate thing, and Moses mentioned that some members may have died because of not accessing private hospitals. It is a very serious statement. I hope that none of that happened, and it shouldn't happen, and I'll explain why. The changes that we have introduced from the beginning of this year as part of us responding to what we talked about earlier, the need to ensure financial sustainability, is on this option that is called Tanzanite 1, where we said access to hospitals will be for PMB conditions, and I'm going to explain. So PMB stands for prescribed minimum benefit. So if you have an illness that can kill you, that can take your life, let's put it that way, it is a PMB condition. And as a result, there is absolutely no reason why a hospital should reject a patient who has a PMB condition, who's on Tanzanite 1. The unfortunate thing, and this is what we are dealing with in terms of healthcare in South Africa. You know, people always cite the example of if you are involved in an accident, an ambulance comes, the first question they ask you, irrespective of how sick you are, do you have a medical aid? It is not right. Because if a person has got, let's take the accident example, you've got serious injuries, you are an emergency, the nearest hospital is where the ambulance must take you, irrespective of whether you have a medical aid or not. So this thing of, because of the changes that we introduced to deal with the issue of high utilization on Tanzanite 1, we are very careful not to restrict clinically appropriate access to healthcare. And those hospitals have got no business to be retaining our members who have emergency conditions. So it is absolutely wrong, and it's something when we became aware of, our health relations, provider relations division has been dealing with it. We are in talks with the various hospitals in terms of interpretation of these changes that were introduced on Tanzanite 1.
Okay. And speaking of Tanzanite 1, Dr. Mpo on the WhatsApp line also says, Clement, the problem with GEMS is that they introduced inferior plans like Tanzanite 1 and Beryl, and the benefits are lower. So patients consult more times to get the same treatment as with other higher plans. So the claims are more per person as opposed to those with higher plans. Do you agree with the statement?
I don't agree with Dr. Mpo. There is nothing like an inferior plan. The benefits, entitlements in the health insurance industry are based on how much you can afford, so that we expand the pool as best as possible. Now, we have certain structures, and let's go to Tanzanite 1, where we establish a network of doctors, and we agree with them that billing has got to be in a certain manner. The use of inferior by Dr. Mpo is unfortunate. We have to ensure that there is access, and affordability is based on what we can package using actuarial models. And if you look at Tanzanite 1 specifically, there is a time before the beginning of this year where we said visits to a general practitioner are unrestricted, so they're unlimited. And what did we see? There's a doctor who saw a patient almost every day on Tanzanite 1, inappropriate behavior. So we had to come back and say, well, let's go revert to the standard. And the standard is you are then entitled to a certain number of visits to the GP. In this case, it's about 8 visits. And then after that, you have to get prior authorization. So we have to have administratively say, yes, there is a reason why you need to go to the doctor. And then we do an authorization. There's nothing inferior about that. It's managing benefit utilization.
Yeah. What was some of the criticism that you've received in the past, especially from the unions, are on the expenditure on executive and trustee remuneration, the frequency with which the board of trustees meets? If I'm not mistaken, there were about 52 or 53 board meetings in the previous year, generating more than 1.4 million rand in fees. I'm not sure if that's for each trustee, but what do you say to members who argue that's a lot of money, a lot of meetings that end up accumulating in millions that must be managed if you're serious about financial sustainability?
That's a very important part of what has been raised. It's something that is raised at our AGMs. It is something that we have had to deal with, but I need to first explain the number 52, and this is for the purpose of explaining so that everybody understands where we are. Those are not board meetings. The board meetings are a separate thing from committee meetings. So the structure of GEMS is that we have 7 committees, which are board subcommittees. So that number of 52 counts everything as board meetings. So, but it's a very important point. If you have 7 committees with board members sitting in the various committees, it increases the number of sittings that they are remunerated for.
Do they get remunerated the same as in the board meeting and in the subcommittee?
No.
meetings?
The board meetings would be higher than the subcommittees. Right. So, on average, we need to have the committees meet once per quarter to prepare for what they submit to the board for consideration. So, that the number of 52, 54 has been really in the public space, and it's something from a governance point of view that we have said, within GEMS, and said this needs to be dealt with. So in general, boards would meet quarterly. That's 4 meetings per year. So in our instance, in terms of our annual plan, we actually have 4 quarterly reporting meetings. We have 2 strategic planning meetings. And then we have a special meeting that deals at the end of the year, when you wrap up and deal with issues like end of year, remuneration issues and all of that. So it would be around 7. But GEMS is a different medical schemes. We find that because of stakeholder demands, the boards tend to be participating in other events that are related where they're invited as a board. And this is under, we have asked an independent, one of the experts, to look at the issues that have been raised by them and benchmark against best practice. And once the board has considered those reports, it will determine what's going to happen going forward.
All right, before we take a quick break, Dumi is asking about a rewards program. He says for past members have suggested a reward programs to minimize claims. What is the plan with that? That's a message from Dumi, who's a GEMS member.
So the short answer is we are a few months away from launching a rewards program. We're busy with such, but I need to make this following comment. Rewards program within a medical scheme have to be run in accordance with what the regulator allows. So GEMS as a medical scheme cannot run a rewards program. So what we do, we partner with a person, we would partner and subject to regulatory approval, which is the process that we are at the moment. But the important thing is rewards programs are very important. It's not like it's going to be a silver bullet that suddenly reduces claims. It is a long-term thing where we want to change behavior. So if you look at GEMS, earlier on I mentioned that our chronic disease are high. We have 27.4%. I needed to check it. 27.4% of our members have chronic disease of some sort. And most of these chronic diseases are lifestyle diseases. And we would like a situation where there's lifestyle changes to the extent that Clement, some of our members, and we know some of them participate at the Comrades Marathon, for instance, but to live a healthy lifestyle, an active lifestyle that helps us to deal with things that are so-called diseases that come because of a sedentary type of lifestyle where people are just, they sit, they walk to the car, they hardly ever do any other thing. So the rewards program will then be linked to lifestyle changes, up to including issues like diet. And then the gains only manifest themselves long term. So it is an important question in terms of how the world operates. And also one of the most important things about a rewards program is the data that you collect from your database to inform some of your decisions.
Okay. It's 11 minutes now before 11 o'clock.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
The Midday Report at its heart is a current affairs show, but it really is a show about everything you need to know about and everything you didn't know you needed to know about. Our listener is sharp, plugged in, curious, has developed opinions, but is still open to learning new things. My favorite part is how witty, sharp, and funny our listener is. What we cover every day is breaking news, current affairs, politics, the courts, global developments, science, education, popular culture, sports, books, and of course, good things too. I like to think of it as a lunchbox with a little bit of everything. What I love about 702 Land is that it is full of energy. There's always something happening, a developing story to follow. But it's not parochial. The 702 family cares about what is happening in the world around them and how we plug into that.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. Weekdays from 12 to 1 p.m.
Attention all shoppers.
Our supermarket shelves are full of unhealthy food. It's often hard for me to know which foods are good for my family. The information on packaged food is complicated and hard to understand. I wish we had easy-to-understand warning labels on foods high in salt, sugar, and saturated fat. We have the right to know what's in our food. Support front-of-package warning labels on unhealthy packaged foods. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
Running a truck fleet business in this economy is tough. Fuel, maintenance, staff, the costs never stop. That's why I switched to My Way Business Insurance. Now I save up to 20% on my insurance premiums every month. These savings go a long way to keeping my fleet on the move.
Switch to My Way Business Insurance and save up to 20% on your trucks and buses. Real businesses, real savings. Call us on 0860 646464 for a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. Standard rates and T's and C's apply.
When it comes to resilience, focus, and strength, few South Africans embody it like Gerda Steyn, the Comrades Marathon champion and one of the toughest endurance athletes. Sits down with Dr. Michael Moll for a powerful conversation you don't want to miss. It's part of CIPLA's Health and Mind Matters, a trusted hub bringing you expert-led health conversations you can trust. Together, they unpack mindset, pressure, physical health, and what it really takes to stay strong mentally and physically. Watch the full video now on the Prime Media Plus app or primemediaplus.com. Scroll to Prime Media Highlights and click on Health Matters.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
8 minutes before 11 o'clock, we're just about to wrap up our conversation with Dr. Stan Mulwabi, who is GEM's Principal Officer. So, Dr. Mulwabi, I want you to once again address the issue of Tanzanite, because I'm getting a number of messages from doctors on the WhatsApp line. One, Dr. Julius says, Clement, we've had to send away a patient with meningitis who was on Tanzanite 1. Meningitis is a PMB condition, so how do you explain that? And then another doctor who says they are anonymous says, Clement, I had a patient with chronic kidney failure whom I could not admit to Mediclinic because GEMS declined the admission because of Tanzanite 1. There seems to be a confusion then, because if PMB conditions under this Tanzanite 1 is acceptable in a private hospital, then why are these doctors chasing away patients?
I don't. It's very concerning. So let me start with the first case of meningitis. Yeah, meningitis is a very serious medical condition. It could be even life-threatening. Why would we refuse the authorization? I'm sure there's more to this than the information we have at the moment. But let me give an answer that I think it's possible for both. So in the second question, the hospital group was mentioned, and that's Mediclinic. Now, Mediclinic is one of our network hospital groups at the moment in the current. So the first thought that came to mind was that maybe they declined it on the basis that it was not a network hospital. The answer is no, because Mediclinic is a network. Chronic renal failure. Clement, can I explain to you? One of the conditions on which we spend money is patients with renal failure because they are on dialysis. The cost of a patient on renal dialysis is 16 times the cost of a patient who has one chronic condition. We pay for these. So what I would encourage both doctors, I really want to know more about these specific incidences, and I'll give you. I'm going to give you an address, an email, which is my public email, which is po@gems.gov.za. The problem that I don't understand is the fact that we do have what we call provider license officers. We meet with doctors, they are doctor groups. We have what you call doctors' summits, where we meet with the doctors for that specific reason of explaining how a medical aid works. Clement, can I just share with you that is the reason why I left clinical practice. I left clinical practice when interacting with colleagues and with funders, I said, but there must be something that must make us to understand more. And my ideal was to be on this side of healthcare funding so that we can come up with programs where we educate doctors on how a medical scheme works. The problem I know with my colleagues who are doctors is that doctors want to work in a certain way. When it involves a funder also comes with protocols and determines certain medical scheme rules by which we must all abide for funding to be there. And doctors don't like that. But I'd love them to send really the specific cases.
So that's po@gems.gov.za.
That's correct.
Just quickly now, you've launched the comprehensive roadmap for 2026. How does that help future-proof the scheme, that is, and enhance member benefits, drive efficiency as well in the healthcare sector? Because even when you want to try and ensure cost containment, you don't want that to come at the expense of patient care.
That's basically the biggest challenge. And as a medical scheme, you have to balance between ensuring your financial sustainability, but also there must be an understanding between ourselves and the healthcare providers. There's so much to talk about in terms of that roadmap, but I'll summarize by saying there has to be a better understanding between ourselves as a medical aid, GEMS, being a healthcare funder, the healthcare providers themselves in terms of how do you ensure that there's appropriate access to healthcare benefits by members. And then the members have to understand how a medical scheme works. And these revolve around one thing. We need to up the education to our members. And we have to use various platforms. And those platforms range from shows like yourselves, Clement, the type of advertising that we have to do, being on the social media platforms. And all of these things are part of this roadmap to say education is key and an understanding of how a medical scheme works.
Dr. Stan Mulwabi, thank you so much for coming to engage with us and some of the GEMS members who are listeners of 702.
It's been a pleasure, Clement.
It's 2 minutes before 11.
702 Drive with John Perlman.
On our show, we cover the news, but we try to do it in a slightly different way. If there's breaking news, we give you the facts, but we're always looking for somebody who can explain to us why something is happening, and we apply that thinking to everything we do. That, yes, you want to know the what, but crucially, you want to know the why, and most important of all, you want to know how it might be fixed. The wonderful thing is we don't have one kind of listener who listens to our show. I think the kind of listeners we have are people who want to be heard, but they definitely listen very, very carefully. Once they've made up their mind, they come in very, very quickly, very sharp, very focused, and if they're not happy with the answer, you're going to find out very, very soon. And it's great because it keeps us interested and it keeps us on our toes. We're putting the show together, but thank goodness the listeners are keeping us accountable, and that's good for everyone.
702 Drive with John Perlman, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
Every day, the products we buy, from food to medicine, depend on barcodes and standards to ensure they are safe and legitimate. That's the work of GS1 South Africa, the official supplier of barcodes for South Africa and the SADC region. Today, the 15th of April, GS1 South Africa hosts its Indaba, bringing together business, regulators and law enforcement to stop counterfeit goods and illicit products from reaching store shelves and to protect South African consumers. GS1 South Africa, powering trust in date for everyone, everywhere.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. It's easy to apply. No medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. Julius Malema's lawyer has argued that a custodial sentence would be grossly unfair, pointing out that no one was injured when the EFF leader opened fire at the party's rally in Mdantsane. Malema is appearing in the East London Magistrates Court in Gukompo today for sentencing proceedings. He was found guilty of violating gun laws after firing shots into the air in front of thousands of EFF supporters in 2018. A custodial sentence of more than 12 months without the option of a fine would disqualify him from serving as a Member of Parliament for 5 years. His senior counsel, Lawrence Hodes, argues that a fine would be a more appropriate penalty.
We've illustrated that mere possession and discharge do not always mean that there must be incarceration. Each case must be evaluated on its facts. The facts of this case are indeed unique.
Meanwhile, his supporters are outside court following proceedings. Nhlanhla Mabaso is there.
EFF supporters are sitting on the road watching proceedings on a big screen set up outside the court building, while some of them break in song and chant. There was a bit of yelling earlier from some members who wanted to force their way inside, but police kept the situation, saying only accredited people are allowed inside court. While some people are now sitting comfortably here, the singing continues from party supporters. Nanny, Eyewitness News, Gukompo in Eastern Cape.
Police Captain Alfred Barker is due back in the Western Cape High Court today to be cross-examined by the state about his relationship with alleged underworld gang boss Nafees Modak. Modak, who faces 122 charges related to allegedly operating a criminal enterprise, insists Barker was part of his plan to expose certain top cops and underworld figures who were working against him. But Barker denied this yesterday, saying he was purely investigating Modak's allegations. Carlo Peterson reports.
State Prosecutor Blaine Lazarus questioned Captain Alfred Barker yesterday about his alleged relationship with Nafees Modak. Modak insists Barker gave him instructions about how to expose top cops Jeremy Veery and the now deceased Charles Kinnear. Barker told the court he investigated Modak's allegations but was never part of a plan to expose the senior police officers. Presiding Judge Robert Henney told Barker evidence shows he was led astray.
Facts were not given to you. Facts were not given to you. Facts were withheld. That is correct. You were misled. You were never told about the other payments. He let you open the docket.
Barker will be back in court today for the state to complete its cross-examination. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
The National Union of Metal Workers says or has rejected Eskom's proposed 7% wage increase. It says the power utility had previously budgeted for a 9% hike. NUMSA's chief negotiator, Wandisile Pram, says despite the new offer of 7%, Eskom increased executive salaries by 250,000 rand per month.
We view this as being unfair that executives that are already paid 2.8 million, their salary increase is increased to 5.8 million. In essence, their salary increase was increased by 250,000 per month. You will know that whatever that is being achieved, it was at the back of the hard work from the bargaining unit workers.
He says the 7% increase proposed is insufficient when considering inflation and fuel hikes. He says instead, members are calling for an 8% increase.
When you look at the estimates that has been released by the Central Energy Fund, workers are not going to pay anything less than 4,000 rand more to go to work. And when you look at the offer for a worker that is sitting at a tax rate for after tax, that 7%, it's a mere 1,000 rand.
And 2 Israeli strikes have hit vehicles south of Beirut, with Hezbollah launched rockets at Israel hours after Lebanon and Israel agreed to hold direct negotiations. Israel is continuing its strikes in southern Lebanon in its war with Iran-backed Hezbollah. The attacks come a day after Lebanon and Israel's ambassadors to the U.S. held their first direct talks in decades in Washington and agreed to hold further direct negotiations with the Lebanese envoy calling for a ceasefire. Hezbollah strongly rejected the talks. The meeting comes during a fragile ceasefire in the Middle East crisis between the U.S., Israel and Iran. Israeli attacks on Lebanon have killed more than 2,000 people and displaced more than 1 million others. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has continued to condemn the crisis in the Middle East.
Lawlessness fuels suffering. Lawlessness leads to destruction.
And this is not the moment to retreat from international law. It's the moment to reaffirm it.
Gold is trading at $4,818.40 an ounce. The rand is at 16.36 to the dollar, 22.20 to the pound, 19.29 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $95.63 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N12 West. This is between the N12 and the N1 and the Golden Highway, while traveling on the N3 South, queuing traffic between the Kilulis Interchange and Van Buren Road. That's due to roadworks.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 24 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Julius Malema's lawyer has argued that a custodial sentence would be grossly unfair, pointing out that no one was injured when the EFF leader opened fire at the party's rally in Mdantsane.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Minutes after 11 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. It's time for our Listener's Choice feature.
Burning questions,
insightful answers,
Listener's Choice
with Clement Manyathela.
So, Listener's Choice feature is all about you co-curating the content of the show with us. So you tell us what you want us to talk about on a Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock. So we've dedicated this 30 minutes for you to tell us what you would like us to discuss on the show. Maybe there's a subject matter that you feel we have not sufficiently discussed, or maybe there's something that's happened that you think we have not touched on or we may have missed. You can just send me an email on cm@702.co.za and we'll bring you that conversation. Today, we're discussing South Africa's draft AI policy because one of our listeners asked that we look closely into this. Our country has entered this critical moment in our digital future with this development of a national artificial intelligence policy. And as AI continues to shape industries, economies, and everyday life, government is now moving to regulate and guide its use through various regulations, and in this case, the draft National AI Policy Framework, which was introduced by the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. And artificial intelligence is already embedded in many systems that we interact with daily. Whether we're talking about outdated customer service or data-driven decision-making in business and government. However, alongside these advancements come serious concerns about privacy, about bias, inequality. I mean, job security is a concern we talk about a lot when we are discussing the advancements of AI. So this draft policy aims to ensure that AI in South Africa is developed and used in a way that is ethical, in a way that is inclusive and beneficial to society while also supporting innovation and economic growth. It also aligns with existing legislation such as the Protection of Personal Information Act, which governs how personal data is handled. So that's a conversation we're having this morning about this draft AI policy and how far it goes. You're welcome to join this conversation on 011-883-0702. It's an important conversation, and we're going to be talking about AI a lot in the coming future and the recent coming future. Because as the country moves forward with AI, questions are going to continue about whether this country is truly ready for it in its fullness and whether policy goes far enough to protect citizens. And what does this even mean for the future of work and equality? So bring your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. And I'd like to know, how would you like AI to be regulated in the country? What are your ideas of how this can be regulated in a way that still safeguards us as consumers, but also enhances, right, the partnerships, right, when we are talking even about our economy, working alongside with the other advancements we see in society. 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. You can join the conversation on 072-702-1702 as well. Professor Sizwe Snail Kamtuze is a senior partner at Snail Attorneys and cyber law expert who will guide us through this conversation. Prof, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning to you and your listeners.
Yeah. Let's start with just your overall reaction to this draft AI policy. What stands out to you the most?
I think South Africa, being a leading country in Africa, has taken a very important step and a very bold step to not just draft policy document on policy document on policy document, but I think this specific document also gives a clear intention as to whether South Africa should legislate new legislation or whether it should use existing legislation and existing institutions to regulate AI. I also do see that there are some creations of some new sector-specific things and also specific AI institutions that will also be established. So there are some really great things in this document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get into details about some of those great things you mentioned, including those institutions. But do you believe that this policy strikes the right balance between encouraging innovation and protecting citizens from potential harm?
I think any AI policy in 2026, in the current digital age, must have some flavor of digital sovereignty, of AI sovereignty, of data privacy in it, so that, you know, we as South Africans, we don't just give out our AI skills, let alone our information that is used by AI. So I do think this policy has been drafted in line with the Bill of Rights to protect South Africans, in line with the Constitution. So I do think it is a document that was carefully drafted to give effect to the protection of South Africans and also to the enhancement of AI development. As I said, you know, some form of AI sovereignty that we would be creating.
Yeah. The policy places a strong emphasis on ethical AI. And of course, in a country like ours, with our own history of inequality, I'm just wondering, how do we ensure that AI systems do not reinforce those existing biases? Do you get a sense that this policy covers that extensively?
Look, I don't think it specifically speaks to AI biases lengthily, but it does talk about the Bill of Rights. In other words, the rights that need to be protected in the Constitution, specifically your right to data protection, your right to dignity. It does address those in the broader context to say that any use of AI must be lawful. And once we talk lawful, we're talking the Constitution. And once you talk in the Constitution, you're talking the Bill of Rights.
Mm. How far behind are we, though? Or, in fact, let me start with data protection, what you just mentioned now. These existing laws, because we've got existing laws like POPIA, are they strong enough to deal with the complexities of AI? Or do we need more specific regulations that enhance the policy?
I guess the question is, do I believe we should have a standalone piece of legislation,
Yes.
or should we update what is already existing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a proponent of actually creating standalone legislation, such as, what that has been done in Europe in terms of the AI Act, but that has its own complications, in the sense that it has taken them years to develop the AI Act in Europe, and I don't think we in South Africa have the capacity nor the resources to pull off a similar piece of legislation in 3 years as is being proposed in this document. So in line with the proposals that are being here to strengthen current institutions such as the Information Regulator, the Human Rights Commission, the Department of Science of Technologies, the CFIR, I think the government's intention is to take what we have and to work with what we have and to improve what we have, rather than going to the drawing board and going from scratch. So the approach, I think, is an approach of using current existing legislation, seeing how that can be refined and how that can be used to further regulate AI, which is also not a bad approach.
Do you think South Africans, though, are aware of how AI is already impacting their daily lives, or is there still a major awareness gap? Because this policy also highlights the need for skills development. So realistically speaking, how far behind are we, and what can we do if the gap exists to urgently close it?
I think in terms of the private sector using AI to do business with us as citizens, I think South African businesses are actually quite advanced. And they have been looking at what foreign countries have been doing. And as I said, we always tend to look at Europe as to what they're doing. So a lot of companies in South Africa have proactively embraced AI, are using AI, and are literally deploying AI with some of us not even being aware of it. I'm of the school of thought to say that the whole discussion about AI is a bit blurry because AI has been with us since 1950-something, It is the ability of a computer to do things that are reserved for human beings, to simplify what AI means, And over the years, with the improvement of technologies, with the improvement of the digital chips, with the improvement and the powers of the computers that we have, we've had this incredible computing power now, which allows us now to start doing things that were previously reserved for human beings. It allows us now to access vast databases and to do vast analysis of information. So I think AI is here. If anyone thinks AI is Caesar or AI kan nog kom, AI is here.
Yeah.
The issue is how do we regulate it?
Yeah.
And in a way that it also benefits us as South Africans.
Yeah, and how do we incorporate it into our dailies? I mean, there are people who still think they can just fight it out, and I never want to come across that, but it's here. It's really largely part of how, corporations operate, how we do a lot of things. So the better you are better skills at it, the sooner you're better skills at it, the better. It's 20 minutes after 11 o'clock. We're going to continue this conversation with Professor Sizwe Snail Kamtunze after the break. I want to give you an opportunity as well to ask him questions if you have any about this policy or some concerns you have about the policy or concerns you have about AI. Join the conversation by giving us a call or sending a WhatsApp voice note.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja.
702 Afternoons is about all things in life, from music to inspiration. We get an opportunity to explore science, mental health, food. I almost feel like there's nothing we don't do on my show. One of the things I absolutely love about 702 Land and the 702 family is that we are so sharing. We share tears, laughs, smiles. We share in the amazing times and celebrate together as well. We have a range of topics, but when it comes to what we do cover on the show, absolutely everything. My listener is somebody who wants to grow, evolve, develop. They're empathetic, they are loving, they are so special that even when they don't have, they come through and share, and more importantly, they know how to walk the talk.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja. Weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m.
You can become a victim of a legal problem. Wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Yeah, yes. I used to lose time in my business every day. Slow internet, orders not going through, clients waiting. It starts small, but it adds up. You miss one thing, then another, and before you know it, everything is behind. So, I upgrade, and I got fast, reliable connectivity from MTN Business to focus on growth.
Your business doesn't buffer, so why should your tech? Let's talk shop. Click on mtn.co.za/business or visit an MTN store today. MTN Business, Africa's leading enabler of connectivity and converged solutions.
Imagine a holiday where the only thing on the to-do list is enjoy yourself. With Norwegian Cruise Line, you can sail to over 400 destinations worldwide effortlessly. Visit ncl.com for the best deals or contact your travel agent today. Norwegian Cruise Line. It's different out here. T's and C's apply.
2026 is going to be a year of firsts when the Sanlam Cape Town Marathon happens for the first time in May.
Love it.
And continues to push to becoming Africa's first major. So, join Cape Town and the rest of the world when we rise again to run for gold and make history.
That's what makes this one so special.
By turning Africa's biggest marathon into Africa's first major. Putting Cape Town on the marathon stage with some of the greatest cities in the world, like London, Paris, Tokyo, Berlin.
It doesn't get better than this.
The Sanlam Cape Town Marathon, 24 May 2026.
Get ready.
The 2026 Sanlam Cape Town Marathon, proudly supported by 702. Go to capetownmarathon.com for more.
Burning questions.
Insightful answers.
Listener's choice.
With Clement Manyathela.
It's 24 minutes after 11 o'clock on our Listener's Choice feature this morning. We've been talking about this new draft AI policy. It's quite interesting because, as we enter this digital future with the development of this national artificial intelligence policy, you've got to wonder if it goes far enough and what does it mean for the future of work and equality. Professor Sizwe Snail Kamtunze is a senior partner at Snail Attorneys and cyber law expert. I've got a few questions coming through, Prof, that I'll put to you. First one is about the issue of job creation. This listener says, "Hi Clement, I worry a lot about the creative space, art, music, broadcasting. When you see AI music artists and art and video being edited through AI edit programs, that's worrying. We live in a country with a high unemployment rate, especially for the youth. Surely the policy should also protect from job losses through AI somehow." Prof, how much of the issue of job protection is expressed in this policy?
I'm not the drafter of this policy, but I don't think this policy specifically talks about protection of employment per se. It talks more about putting more investment into AI, into it and also into the space, and also encouraging people to use it in creative ways. But the comment is correct to say that in certain instances, AI has been regressive, replacing human beings, doing tasks and jobs that human beings had previously done, and as cost-cutting measures for companies. In any of the revolutions, and I don't want to give a lesson right now, but in any of the revolutions, there's always been the human being as a target, you know? With the second industrial revolution, there was an issue. Then with the third industrial revolution, there was an issue. And definitely now, with the fourth industrial revolution, there is definitely the debate to say whether technology is replacing us. But that cannot be a discussion that should stop a country like South Africa in developing its AI capabilities and investing money into local AI infrastructure and into local AI projects. So it is a little bit of a double-edged sword, and I appreciate the concern that your listener has.
Hi, Clement and the team. My only concern about the introduction of AI is in the workplace, because we tend to miss the point that AI won't contribute to the economy when compared to humans, because Clement, you currently contributing to the economy in different ways. You contribute to fuel levy, you contribute to income tax, you contribute to other factors of the economy, whereas AI won't contribute to those, which means we might have economic stagnation in the future, which I suggest that companies which are currently introducing AI must pay more on their income tax. David in Melrose.
Okay, David. Thank you for your comment, Prof.
Yeah, I think once again, it is the issue of AI replacing human beings to do certain tasks, and that's danger. But I think that, you know, for AI that's been deployed now for years, with us not even being aware, I don't think the AI has replaced us that much, especially in a country like South Africa. I think during COVID-19, that was the time when we all went digital. That was the time when we all started using applications, we started Zooming, we started Teamsing, and believe it or not, we started using AI intensively. Every time you go on a chatbot, AI is there. Every time you go on a particular website, and that's been for years, there's probably an algorithm that's checking where you are from, what type of things you access, what you click. So, you know, the analysis of algorithms is not a new thing. And I guess that's where the POPIA comes in, which also protects, you know, the information of individuals in that sense. So it is very, very, very critical that we shouldn't look as AI as an enemy to us. AI is definitely not an enemy. It is something that will assist us to making things better, to improving processes, to make things more efficient. I don't think we should take the stance of being afraid of AI and saying this thing is here to come and take our jobs, let's tax it, let's make it impossible for it to be here. I think we should understand what AI is. We should learn what AI is. We should invest in AI, and we should try and be one of the leaders in AI in Africa, if not in the world.
Just lastly, looking at the global trends, though, how do we fare as South Africa? How does South Africa's approach compare to what we're seeing in places like, you know, in the European Union, the United States, China?
Look, I think the policy document is very clear. It does say that we are not existing in a vacuum, right? We are looking at the OECD frameworks. We are looking at the European Union. We are looking at what other jurisdictions are doing. But we are also looking at a homegrown solution. I think the center focal point of the AI policy is the fact that we're looking for South African AI solutions for South Africans, which is also in line with, the mantra of AI by Africans for Africans. I think that is the main pushing spirit in this document.
Prof, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. Professor Sizwe Snail Kamtu is a senior partner at Snail Attorneys, but also a cyber law expert. Uncensored Perspective on Twitter has actually just so graciously put up a link to this National Artificial Intelligence Draft Policy in the Government Gazette. Remember, it's available for public comment until the 10th of June. So if you want to comment on this, I've just retweeted the link that takes you straight to the draft policy, and you can make your comments before the 10th of June. It's 11:31. Bali has the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. What's been happening in court in East London? Bali, good morning.
Well, Clement, a very good morning. Julius Malema's lawyer has now argued that a custodial sentence would be unfair, pointing out that no one was injured when the EFF leader opened fire at the party's rally in Mdantsane. Malema is appearing in the Kukombo Magistrates Court today for sentencing proceedings. He was found guilty of violating gun laws after firing shots into the air in front of thousands of EFF supporters in 2018. Former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batoy, says the NPA made TRC cases a top priority despite being hollowed out by state capture. Batoy told the TRC cases inquiry that when she took office in 2019, the NPA was battling low morale, limited resources and instability in its top leadership following years of neglect and budget cuts. She is testifying before the inquiry today, which is probing delays in prosecuting apartheid-era cases. And the death toll from a boiler blast at a power plant in central India has risen to 19. The explosion occurred yesterday at a facility operated by Vendetta Limited. According to authorities, 17 people have been injured and are receiving treatment in hospital. Well, those are the headlines. This EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling in the Bedfordview area, we do have a major accident seen along the N12 West. It's right near the Kiluli's interchange. Delays coming out of Edenville Road. The R24 West is also heavily backed up as a result. If you were traveling on the R24 East, we've got delays as well between the Kiluli's interchange and the N12 merge. That's due to roadworks on the opposite side of that route. If you were traveling along the M2 West, do expect delays as you approach Elof Street. There's also queuing traffic towards Amalgam as you approach Main Reef Road, while in Devland, queuing traffic on the N12 West. This is between the N1 and the Golden Highway. There's also a bit of a hold-up reported in the city of Tshwane along the N1 South approaching the Flying Saucer interchange. And that's your last update from me, Amo Ramela. Khomotso Munyai will have your next traffic update from the top of the hour onwards. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Sharing Space
on the Clement Manyathela Show.
7:02.
25 minutes before 12 o'clock. Time for the Sharing Space. What are we hearing today? What's being shared today? The Sharing Space, if you've never had the feature before, it's an opportunity for us as a family to share our stories, whether it's something that's happened at work or when you're on holiday or with your friend or you're in a conundrum and you're trying to figure out what to do. Just send me an email on cm@702.co.za, and some listeners are often very gracious to give you advice, but also we love hearing your stories, because trust me, there's someone out there who listens and they say, I can relate to that because I've experienced it this way, and we share our own experiences, and voila, you may end up just with a solution on your hands. So today we've got a story from a listener. I'm going to play a WhatsApp voice note, and then afterwards I'm going to go to your calls if they're asking for advice, or if they're not asking for advice, you can tell me if you've experienced something similar before. Here we go.
Hi Clement, I hope you're well. So I recently had a baby, right? And I really need a nanny. And I noticed that my cousin's nanny is really good. Like, she's good at her job. She takes care of the household. She takes care of the kids. Like, she's really good. And my cousin relies on her for everything in the household. But the thing is, my cousin doesn't pay her well. She also doesn't treat her that nice as well. And I would like her to be a nanny for my child. And I decided that I think I'm just going to poach my cousin's nanny. I did not tell my cousin, though, but I have started offering her nanny a job in my home as well. So I also offered her a better pay, and I know that I can take much more better care than my cousin would. She seems to want the job, but we haven't really reached an agreement. And I also don't want to tell my cousin until the nanny agrees. So when I told my friend about this, she said that I was wrong to not tell my cousin that I want her nanny to work full-time for me. I don't think I'm wrong because I'm offering her better pay, especially in this economy, and better work environments as well. I mean, who doesn't want that? So am I the villain for this?
Whoa. Okay. Hey, Anonymous, this is a bit tricky. One, because she's already working for you on an ad hoc basis, so it's not official, but you have basically stolen a nanny from your cousin. Let's be blunt about it. Doesn't she say that she's already started working? So she's still courting her. She hasn't started working. Okay. All right. So I've been corrected. She's still courting her. Okay, then that's fine. Then I'm okay with that. Then let me start it from a different base. If you have already started engaging her and offering her even better pay, and you have not had a conversation with your cousin, I think that is like violating the cousin code, if there's anything like that. Really, I think if she's brilliant with your cousin's children, but you think the cousin doesn't pay her well or the cousin doesn't treat her well, maybe what you can do is speak to your cousin and say, yo, can you help me out here? Like, I want your nanny to come work at my house as well. I think start that conversation maybe with your cousin and hear what she says. Maybe the nanny can work at both houses. I don't know if that's even possible. If not, then you would have to respect that she's with your cousin. And if you poach her and she leaves, the cousin comes to you, and then your cousin is left vulnerable, what do you even say to her? Yo, I don't know. This is really too complex for me. At the top of my mind, I'm thinking, talk to your cousin first. Otherwise, this is going to affect your relationship. That's at the top of my head. Let me hear what the other listeners think. And maybe as they share their experiences and give advice, I'll get a sense of what's the best thing to do. 011-883-0702. For me, the fundamental question here is, should you be allowed to poach a helper or a nanny from a friend or a family member? Where they leave, they stop working for you, they go working for them because they've poached them and they never had a conversation with you. Wouldn't you feel offended by that? I probably would. What do you think? And what advice do you have for an anonymous? Because it sounds like she really, really likes this nanny, hey? 20 minutes before 12.
The Aubrey Masangu Show on 702.
I cover on my show issues of advisory, whether it is legal matters, whether it is financial matters. I cover day-to-day issues as far as current affairs are concerned. I cover the politics of the day and how we as South Africans are interpreting them. My listener is a curious 702 lander. They want to know what are the backstories, the stories behind what we are hearing on the airwaves. They want to understand what drives the different issues that have us talking. What I love about the 702 family and 702 Land is the fact that we have 702 Landers who are responsive, who are present, who care about their communities and who want to know how they can be a part of the process of making our areas better, but also our country better. And that for me is a great privilege. I am totally indebted to the providence out there to be talking to these people on a daily basis.
The Aubrey Masangu Show, weekday weekdays from 8 to midnight.
Let's hear from Al, owner of Johnson's Cable, why it pays to switch to OutSurance Business Insurance.
I thought it was going to be difficult to switch to OutSurance Business Insurance. Switching was so quick and easy. I'm happy with the premium that I'm paying now.
For electrical, tradesman services, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to OutSurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
702 and MTN Business are celebrating small business owners who really walk that entrepreneurial talk, proving that big things can grow from bold ideas. It's the 702 MTN Small Business Awards, and standout SMEs are stepping into the spotlight from the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between. Tune into 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa and Afternoon Drive with John Pellman every weekday to meet our finalists and hear their stories. And if you're running a small business yourself, or you know one that should be part of this conversation, there's still time to enter or to nominate them. Go over to primemediaplus.com, because the next business we talk about could be yours. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. T's and C's and more on primemediaplus.com.
The Sharing Space
On the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
18 minutes before 12 o'clock. Straight to your WhatsApps.
But what? No way. Ma'am, please speak to your cousin first. She needs to speak to her cousin. She can't do this. Oh my goodness. No, ma'am. No.
Good morning, Clement. This is Kabale from Pretoria. This is one thing that really irritates me, that irks me. Now, out of millions of people that you can find to work as helpers or nannies, this lady, she now wants to poach her cousin's nanny to come and work for her. I really don't understand. I don't know. Why can't people... It's just being a copycat. She can't be original and do her own thing. Go and look for her own nanny wherever she finds it. She looks to get the nearest. That's laziness at its worst.
No, I don't think it's laziness, guys. Let's be fair. Well, I hear what you're saying, but I think look at it this way. We all want a good helper, right? We all want a good nanny for the kids. You know, we all want the right person who will do the garden properly. How do you get those people? Most of the time, it's actually through seeing them do work, whether with your neighbor or with your cousin, or it's a reference from your aunt because they've used the same nanny before. That's really when you end up finding a really good one. It's under really exceptional circumstances that you will just go out and you start doing interviews and boom, you've got this wonderful person. I think we take for granted just the references and how that has helped us get the people we work that often work at our homes. So I would look at it as, I think I do agree, speak to your cousin first, Anonymous, because this is going to cause trouble. But I get why you're impressed by her, and I get why you would want to give her the opportunity. But that shouldn't be at the cost of your cousin. Because yes, she may not pay her well, she may not treat her well, but she may just be also a valuable addition to that family. So she will be distraught if she leaves her. Let's go to Lerato, who is calling us from Pretoria. Lerato, good morning.
Hi, Clement. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. If she wants to fight until, this is a war. The families have fought for less.
Is it World War III?
For less. People have gone to the grave without even talking to other families for less.
Really?
I just feel like if her intentions are right, she should raise it with the cousin that she doesn't like the way she treats her nanny. If the cousin gets upset and then maybe decides not to talk to her, then she can give her a proper reason for not talking to her by then taking the nanny and working for her, because they won't be talking anyway. But I think it is underhanded to go and try take her while and try pay her better. We know how difficult it is to get good help or nannies and someone to help around the house, to garner the trust of someone, to even train them to meet your requirements. It's time and patience, and for her to actually be happy with this woman's work means that the cousin must have put in some effort also to get her to meet her standards. So it would be very unfair. If her intentions are noble, then she should raise the issue of how the cousin treats her as a starting point.
Yes,
rather.
exactly.
And she shouldn't implicate the nanny and say the nanny spoke to me this, that, the other. It should just be an observation she's made for the cousin to also improve.
Absolutely. Lerato couldn't have said it better. More WhatsApps.
Hi, Clement. I think Anonymous must just communicate with her cousin. Sometimes the cousin will tell you that, no, I don't really need her because I can't afford or whatever, you can take her. Or maybe the nanny can recommend someone. But yeah, just you need to communicate, because these things, they don't end well at all. They don't end well. So yeah, communication is always key.
Clement, this is Tim in Trashville. Clement, about the lady. I think the lady, what she should do, she should take her cousin, sit down. Look, cousin, I think this lady, your helper, she's doing a great job. I love her. And then again, I think she's not doing well financially. So I think, how about if we can share her during then maybe 2 days, 3 days to you, 2 days to me, so that maybe she can get a much better salary, then she can do something better, man, because she's doing over and above for you. So I think she deserves better. Then I also love her. Sit down with her, talk, man. You are cousins, you know. Then I don't think she will mind. If she want to add up her money on top of that, if she want to take her alone, she will tell you, no, cousin, I'll put up more money. That's no problem. But at least talk to her. Yeah, that you want her to, you want to share her, and then you want to do something, man. She needs money. Everyone needs money, man. Everyone needs money. This life, you know, is not balanced. So with extra jobs, yeah, I think she can do it. So yeah, talk to your cousin. That's all I can say. Thank you. Nice show as always.
Bonjour, Clement. Let's not beat around the bush. The lady is wrong. She can even say that she will pay the helper very well, which happens in every one's life. But her cousin's helper, family feud, promising, live and direct.
Hi, Clement. I think, you know what, the cousin should just approach the cousin and tell her that she would like to have her nanny, since she already knows that her cousin doesn't treat the same nanny right. Maybe that cousin just wants to get rid of that auntie, but she doesn't know how to. Maybe if she just speaks to her and asks her, it might just be as easy as she could have ever imagined. She must just tell the cousin that if you no longer want auntie, just give her to me. You know, I can take her. That's it. She mustn't go behind her back and stuff. Her character is just flawed, hey? At this point, honestly, it's just, no, you don't do that.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes on 702.
My show is about your money, and it's about how people have made their money. But it's also about what happened to your money today, what happened on the JSE, what's happening overseas. All of these things, all about the way in which people make their money, spend their money, use their money, and in so many ways, use their money to make more money for them. What I absolutely love about the 702 family and 702 land is the huge warmth of people, the generosity that they show. But I also absolutely love the hustle. Anyone in business is actually trying to improve the economy. They're trying to have an impact on all of us. And there's a go-getting attitude to 702 land that you don't see in so many other places. That's what I really love about 702 land. That getting together and doing something new, and in the process, making making money.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes. Weekdays from 6 to 8 p.m.
Mzansi, the excitement is building. The 130th running of the Hollywood Bets Durban July takes place on Saturday, 4 July. This year's theme, Country Allure, draws from the richness of our land, a celebration of heritage, freedom and style, inspired by our beautiful countryside. It's more than a race. It's where champions are made, stories are written, and greatness is unleashed. World-class horse racing, bold fashion, music, culture, and a day of endless excitement at Hollywood Bets Greyville Racecourse. Get your early bird ticket now at Ticket Pro for just 250 Rand. Available now until 6 May 2026. Get ready to release your glamour at the Hollywood Bets Durban July, Africa's greatest horse racing and social event.
It's 6 a.m. in Kenya. Victor's little sister starts high school today, but her fees need to be paid first. Back in Jozi, Victor logs onto the Absa banking app and sends her money and a little extra for lunch. It arrives instantly.
Your money makes their world go round. Send cash to 18 countries across the world with Absa Global Pay. It's safe, instant, and affordable. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Africa's trade system is at a turning point. Fragmented standards are increasing compliance costs, delaying exports, and enabling the illicit economy to flourish. Today, 15th of April, industry leaders, regulators, and innovators are gathering at the GS1 South Africa Indaba to explore how globally recognized GS1 standards, adopted in 120 countries, supported by trusted product data and traceability systems, can enable safe trade, curb illicit activity, and protect consumers. Anchored in GS1's vision of imparting trust in data for everyone, everywhere. 702 is on the ground, bringing you all the action, updates, and conversations. Don't miss it on 702.
The Sharing Space
On the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
8 minutes before 12 o'clock, a cousin wants to poach a nanny from another cousin. In fact, it appears she's already offered a better pay to this nanny, but they're still having conversations and discussions about whether the nanny can come work for her. She hasn't told her other cousin. Is that allowed, or is that breaking the cousin code, if such even exists? Stephen, you're calling from Alberton. Good morning.
Clement does it.
Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, man, let's not make this thing into what it is not. Marketplace is a fair game. It has nothing to do. People must grow up about these things. I can flip the script, Clement, and say, let's assume I'm a boss in corporate somewhere, and my brother is a competitor in the same industry. And I see there's talent where my brother is, and I want to poach that talent. It's a money game, and the interest of the thing is with the person, not the cousins. It's with the person, whether she wants to move on or not move. Let's not make this what it is not. It's a simple thing of just trading, you know, in a marketplace. You know, you see talent, you poach it, you offer it more. If the other one has got any interest to keep the talent, they must up the stakes and say, okay, you know, I'll offer you much more than my cousin has offered. It's as simple as that. And we carry on. We are still cousins. We are still brothers, if it's in the corporate example I made.
No hard
There's
feelings.
nothing to do with, no hard feelings. There's nothing to do with emotion. I think that the person at the center is the one who should actually make the decision, you know, and whether she wants to move on or she wants to stay. It's not with the cousins at all.
All right, Stephen in Alberton. That's really a strong opinion. Quite convincing, I must say. Marketplace is a competitive space. Don't be too emotional about it. That's what Stephen says. What do you say?
Clement, not only is this lady wrong, she's also cruel. She doesn't love her cousin at all. This might just be a tip of the iceberg, so to say. What else? She wants all that is best for herself, and she has no consideration for her cousin, and she still says it's her cousin. No, this is wrong. She just doesn't like her cousin, and what else is there that the cousin has that he would love to have? Possibly he's in a better financial state than the cousin and is taking advantage of that. There is a lot of low things somewhere here, and as far as this lady is concerned towards her cousin, he already now she knows how much the helper is earning. How when that is supposed to be between the helper and the cousin? This girl is not good for her cousin. I will hope the cousin wakes up very early. This girl is not good for her.
Morning, Clement. Regarding the lady who wants to take her cousin's helper, no, I don't think it's a good idea for her to do that, because at times as people we might think that this person we will gel together, only to find out that when she gets to her, there are other dynamics other than how the cousin is treating her, other than the salary that she's getting, that will not make her gel with her herself. So and then she will be frustrated, and then the helper might not even last with her. So she rather speak to her cousin about it and say, okay, fine, how about maybe she comes and helps me once in a while or something like that. But it's a no just to take somebody without informing the other person. I think it's not right. It will ruin the relationship, because she only to find out that maybe at a later stage that she doesn't gel with this helper.
Well, then, okay, the consensus I'm getting here is that, Anonymous, talk to your cousin first to avoid drama. I heard what Stephen said, but I think the consensus, most of you are saying, speak to your cousin first. All the best, Anonymous. That's going to be quite a chat.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Elon Musk, this sudden need to develop the rural areas, the poor people of South Africa, by the entrance of Starlink to South Africa. But you've got to ask yourself that if this country is such a genocidal, racist, evil country, why would you want to do business with those people? If the entrance of Starlink is going to improve the lives of the poor people in the rural areas, why isn't it not doing the same thing in Zimbabwe or Lesotho? We're not seeing too much development happening there.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Let's count backward. 5. Insurance. 4. Pineapple. 3. Insurance. 2. Pineapple. 1. You're under.
Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
We said, let's talk shop. And small business owners answered, from the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between. Now, 702 and MTN Business want to share their stories with you. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Listen to 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa and the Afternoon Drive with John Perlman all week to meet the businesses doing big things. Hear what it really takes to build something from the ground up. And if you're listening thinking, that sounds like my business, go to primemediaplus.com now to enter or nominate a small business you know, because the next business we talk about could be yours. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. TCs and more on primemediaplus.com.
Coming up
on the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
Good morning, Mandy.
Good morning, Clement Manyathela.
What's popping vandag?
So Julius Malema has serious powerhouse legal team at the moment arguing for him in court, trying to keep him out of prison. We've had Advocate Lawrence Hodis. We now have Advocate Tembeka Nkatoibi SC arguing on sentencing there. So we'll go live to the courthouse. Also outside, there's a vigil. We'll speak about whether Rolf Meyer is the right man to fix South Africa's relationship with the United States.
Will there ever be a right man to fix that?
No, definitely. But is he the best possible candidate?
He's very rational. I really like him.
Yeah, I really like him as well. He's 78, which is the same age as Trump, actually, to be fair.
Yeah.
So,
in fact, I played an interview earlier today that I had with him last year on Face the Nation, Rolf Meyer, that is, and I asked him, would you take up the job? And he said, for someone my age, I don't think that's appropriate. Well, maybe the president really was just under pressure now and didn't have anybody else, and he had to just help him out.
Also, maybe short term until the midterms in November.
Yes.
So that's also possible. Advocate Shamila Batoy is testifying at the TRC inquiry, and Julius Mkwanazi, you have a tissue on your head, is back at the Madlanga inquiry.
All right, that's the midday report coming up with Mendy Wiener. I'll be back with you tomorrow between 9 and 12. Have a beautiful day, friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon. I'm Bali Dlamini. Julius Malema's lawyers have argued that a custodial sentence would be unfair, pointing out that no one was injured when the EFF leader opened fire at the party's rally in Mdantsane in 2018.